Stick with me. I just inherited a top global corporation only to instantly sell it to our rival for 800 billion. Then, I gladly dropped 8 billion on 3 ancient swords, 10 billion for a meteorite, and 100 billion into an abandoned mine. Everyone called me completely crazy, but I alone knew a secret. In exactly 10 months, the world's spiritual energy would fully awaken. Wild beasts would mutate, legendary immortals would return, and countless mystical races would arrive. When that happens, cash becomes the most useless trash on Earth. The items I am collecting right now will make me an absolute legend. High up on the top floor of the luxurious North Star Group headquarters, I sat right in the chairman's seat. Dozens of confused shareholders stared at me across the massive conference room. I calmly announced I was selling every single share I owned. Keep in mind, North Star is literally one of the most profitable companies in the entire world right now. Everyone thought I had completely lost my mind. Only Leonard, the group's third largest shareholder, offered a sneaky smile. The youth always have such reckless ideas. He chuckled softly. Cashing out early to live happily isn't half bad. On the surface, this guy seemed to be defending my choice. But in reality, his ultimate goal was to completely crush my family and steal control of the entire corporate empire. So hearing that I wanted to sell out the dude was literally struggling to hide his laughter. Now watch this closely. Seeing their reactions only made me smile because as a reincarnator I knew something they didn't. In 10 months, everything changes. The world's spiritual energy would fully awaken and 3,000 mystical paths would reappear. Society's entire rulebook gets thrown out completely and wealth will mean absolutely nothing. In my past life, I built the legendary North Star Group from nothing. But when the Great Awakening hit, being just one step too late caused me endless, agonizing hardship. After 10 years of brutal struggle, I eventually met a terrifying end devoured by a monstrous beast. Those painful memories from my past are still crystal clear. But this time around, I was reborn to fix every single mistake. I have exactly 10 months to prepare. I just need to liquidate all my assets incredibly fast. Armed with my future knowledge, I can easily outpace every competitor, rising to become an absolute powerhouse once the Earth's spiritual energy finally returns to us. Snapping back to the present moment, I looked right at the secretly mocking Leonard and calmly smiled. Uncle Leonard, you have always wanted to buy more shares, right? How about I sell every single share to you? The very second I said that, the entire boardroom went dead silent. Even Leonard himself was completely frozen in absolute shock. He was absolutely thrilled inside, but kept up his little poker face. Pretending to be perfectly cool, he casually asked, "Well then, how much are you actually asking for the whole lot?" I didn't even hesitate for a single second. The entire collection goes for a flat 800 billion. Leonard's eyes visibly widened. Honestly, the old fox was incredibly tempted by this offer. 800 billion was a steal. It was literally the deal of a century. Leonard thought it over and cautiously offered, "I can only pay 400 billion max. Would you accept real estate to cover the rest?" You and I both know his game. I secretly smiled. In my past life, Leonard was ridiculously lucky. He owned this massive, unexploited mountainous region, and right beneath that very land was an incredible top-tier hidden domain. Around December, this hidden domain would slowly open up. Thanks to that hidden domain, Leonard built an unstoppable faction, creating an illustrious empire that intimidated the whole nation. I obviously knew that this guy didn't have nearly enough liquid cash right now. To buy my shares, he would absolutely be forced to throw in some premium real estate to compensate. Just as I predicted, Leonard pulled out his extensive property list. And right there, shining like a beacon, was the highly coveted land in the southern Grand Valley. So in just a few minutes, we smoothly closed the 800 billion deal. By the next morning, 400 billion hit my bank account. I couldn't help but grin. My ultimate survival plan had officially begun. I immediately ordered my loyal butler to prep the jet. That same afternoon, I flew straight to Great Britain. I met an eccentric collector named Johnson to secure 3 ancient bronze swords from a long-forgotten era. These 3 artifacts have some seriously mysterious origins. Right now, they just look like rusty scrap metal. But once the world's energy returns, that rust shatters, transforming them into 3 absolutely flawless, peerless magical swords. These weapons automatically merge to create a heavenly sword formation, an unstoppable legendary technique I witnessed in my past. It is ridiculously overpowered, perfectly balancing offense and defense. It once completely suppressed millions of terrifying beasts. But between you and me, the craziest part is this epic technique formed by these blades is actually just an incomplete version. The original legendary heavenly formation actually requires 6 bronze swords. You and I are jumping straight into an epic billionaire quest today, his absolute immediate goal reclaiming 3 legendary ancient swords scattered far abroad. Fast forward a few hours, he visits a massive London estate to meet a guy named Johnson. Show me those 3 bronze swords right now. Our guy skips the small talk completely, and Johnson, he happily plays along. Following the collector's lead, the two step into an incredibly lavish private treasure room. Wearing pristine white gloves, Johnson gently pulls a bronze sword right out of its glass display case and delicately presents it. Instantly, a heavy, mysterious aura fills the whole air. The blade measures 3 feet 6 inches, completely wrapped in aged bronze patina. You can barely make out its faint ancient patterns. But one look is honestly all he needs. He absolutely knows this is the real deal. Without blinking, he drops a bomb. 10 million pounds. Pack all 3 for me. Johnson completely freezes. The collector loves that insane offer, but fakes a hesitant look, staying quiet. Our main character just smirks and casually bumps the massive number up. 30 million pounds. Johnson panics inside, suddenly realizing he is dealing with a bottomless wallet. Playing games, the guy acts deep in thought and starts yapping about weapon history. To our hero, all that chatter basically means just 2 words: more money. Having zero patience for this, he quickly interrupts the guy. 30 million flat. Say no and I walk. Johnson instantly realizes his greedy little game is totally over. The mysterious foreign buyer clearly isn't some naive fool who will just throw extra cash forever. So Johnson flashes a huge smile and quickly agrees. 0 extra words needed. He tosses over an elite black card, swipes it, grabs the legendary swords, and walks right out. That rich collector is definitely gloating, thinking he just scored big time. Watch closely, because here is where things get truly insane. In exactly 10 months, those exact 3 swords become Great Britain's ultimate legendary treasures, perfectly completing step 1 of his master plan. He returns to his massive 2,000 square meter super luxury villa. Sipping on a wildly expensive $200,000 bottle of Celeste wine, he stares at the 3 blades, completely lost in deep thought. In his previous life, the other 3 missing blades were only excavated from King Arthur's legendary tomb. Once the world's spiritual energy awakened, they formed an unstoppable ultimate array, capable of fighting off monstrous beasts and ancient tribes. But shortly after that magical energy returned, the terrifying primordial true king suddenly arrived. The people controlling that powerful array turned traitor. They surrendered to the invaders, completely betraying all of humanity. The whole nation plunged into extreme chaos and terrible danger. Remembering that terrible past, he steps out onto the balcony, gazing down at the glowing lights of 10,000 homes below. Raising his elegant wine glass high, he softly whispers, "Here is a toast to our whole world," wishing for endless peace across our lands and ultimate prosperity for every single person. Next morning, up in the 3rd-floor living room of his grand estate, the massive double doors are pushed wide open. Assistant Simon respectfully steps inside, wearing a sharp suit. Following him are 3 very oddly dressed guests. A dude with braided hair and an eye patch, a cheerful bald guy grinning widely, and an incredibly striking, beautiful young woman. "Mr. Arthur," Simon announces with total respect, "these are exactly the experts you requested." He smoothly steps aside, subtly blocking any possible attack angles from the trio. Our hero catches that detail and gives a slight approving nod. This loyal assistant followed him for many years in his previous life. He was fiercely loyal back then, fighting bravely against ferocious monsters to keep him safe. A dedicated guard. "I know what you are exactly thinking right now. Who are these wacky experts?" He gestures for them to sit. The girl casually flops onto the luxury sofa and smirks. "Just call me Shirley. That guy who literally looks like a pirate, that is my senior marshal brother Thomas. The bald dude is my junior brother Rocky." Skipping the nonsense, she leans in. "Mr. Arthur, we totally get your mission, but King Arthur's tomb. Our analysis says that place is wildly dangerous and full of traps. Even though Master Oakley and Master Easton are out of town and cannot join this raid, we guarantee we will absolutely not fail." He smiles faintly at her confidence. "Perfect. I won't drag this out either." "Here is exactly what I need." Very quickly, both sides agree on a massive payout. 500 million just to grab the other 3 bronze swords from King Arthur's tomb. After sending those quirky raiders off, Assistant Simon stands nearby, his eyes showing deep suspicion and worry. "Mr. Arthur, can those 3 really complete this mission?" Leaning back into the sofa, he replies calmly, "Do not worry. Success or failure honestly doesn't matter. If they completely fail, they will simply be forced to call in Master Oakley and Master Easton. In their underground tomb raiding, world reputation and pride mean absolutely everything." Simon instantly gets it. "The northern setup is ready. Trust me, you'll want to see what's next. Let us dive in by 2:30 p.m. His exclusive chopper arrives right here. Those brilliant instructions you gave earlier completely handled. Everything is running incredibly smoothly right now." Hearing this, our main character simply smiled and nodded in approval. Right at 2:30 p.m., an absolutely massive chopper touched down on the estate grounds. The heavy cabin door opened, revealing a sharp, middle-aged man stepping out. Rocking short, neat hair, he wore this stunning light green spiritual armor. He looked insanely energetic, his sharp eyes literally radiating divine light. This awesome guy was Hugh, an incredibly trusted confidant of our hero's parents. Much like Simon from his past life, Hugh stayed fiercely loyal, giving everything he possibly could. Jumping into the chopper with Hugh, they headed straight north. In less than 2.5 hours, they successfully touched down at the final destination pad. Spotting the chopper, several people rushed forward, led by a man wearing a tunic. His hair was graying, but his intense eyes held a fierce metallic glint. The exact second our hero stepped outside, this man hurriedly ran over, showing massive respect instantly. "Mr. Arthur, we have been eagerly waiting for you." Arthur gave a calm nod, glancing warmly at this older gentleman known as Uncle Gideon. Gideon was another extremely trusted confidant, entirely responsible for managing the huge northern branch. He held serious connections with both local authorities and underground networks. Honestly, contacting those powerful northern factions this time was completely arranged by him alone. Now pay attention here. 10 minutes later, inside a highly secret conference room, he sat with 10 powerful people. These guys were absolute veteran generals. They fought beside his parents as true North Star Group loyalists. After he sold those shares, they boldly quit the company to follow him. Glancing around, Arthur spoke first. "Bringing everyone together today, I really need to clarify a few important things. You amazing uncles have faithfully followed North Star for years and interacted with me often. You absolutely know I am not the type to have wild courage without real brains." Mentioning the sold shares, Uncle Gideon quickly nodded. "We naturally trust you completely, Mr. Arthur. North Star's insane and rapid development over these years, we witnessed it firsthand. But we honestly do not understand why you sold your shares." Leonard's shady intentions were totally obvious, and the rest of the room strongly agreed. Even though they supported his wild decision, many just sat in silence. After 15 tense seconds passed, Arthur finally spoke. "Honestly, explaining the sale of those shares is pretty inconvenient for me right now. In short, everyone will totally understand later. Let us drop this subject completely. As for the second big issue, my real purpose for visiting the North this time, I need you all to keep this strictly confidential." Hearing this, everyone nodded in pure unison. These folks were entirely trustworthy in his past life. Even facing ultimate ruin, they stayed loyal. You see where this is going, right? We are pushing deep into the great northern forest for millennium-old lightning wood. This epic wood sits right in the primeval forest's center, having tanked thousands of brutal lightning strikes while still standing completely firm. However, our public cover story will simply be building a brand new Great Northern Forest tourist resort, so we must send a huge survey team. Honestly, my biggest worry is Leonard. If that guy interferes, things get incredibly tricky for us. Finishing his dramatic speech, his awesome assistant Simon projected a presentation onto the massive screen, explaining everything. Right on screen popped an insane image of a gigantic tree easily measuring over 1 meter across. Its thick bark was scorched black by lightning, but miraculously it never decayed. The majestic trunk stood perfectly straight, reaching up to pierce the very sky. The surrounding area was completely barren land, looking exactly like all the natural resources got drained by this single tree. Northern folk belief claims this lightning wood heavily wards off evil. This tree endured countless massive lightning strikes, yet stood totally firm, never even fading. According to Simon's smart prediction, this legendary tree grows right inside the Great Northern Forest's primeval zone, an incredibly dangerous area completely left unexplored. Therefore, we absolutely must be extremely cautious today. Once those orders were given, the big meeting wrapped up, and these veteran generals rushed to handle their critical arrangements. Days later, Arthur stood outside the Great Northern Forest, staring deeply into the endless woods, while his strong heart absolutely surged with wild emotion. since the spiritual energy revived countless bizarre ancient creatures spawned right here, causing explosive energy. Legendary great cultivators entered here. Finding the millennium-old lightning wood, they crafted a divine weapon of true matchless power. Unfortunately, those exact cultivators eventually betrayed all of humanity entirely. Mr. Arthur, let us set out. Hugh stood respectfully before him, introducing the tough team behind him. They are all highly experienced local veterans. They will absolutely keep their mouths shut. Arthur just nodded, staying completely silent. Trust me, we are not done. As everyone left, Simon approached, whispering massive news about Trenton Auction House. His heart raced. Auction houses always hold incredible antiquities. Let's jump in right now. These are basic collectibles. But after the spiritual awakening, they absorb energy and become legendary treasures. Unable to spot the lightning crystal here, our guy heads right back to Trenton. 2 hours early, he and his assistant hit the auction house venue. Word on the street, tonight's items are massive ancient relics, naturally attracting elite tycoons from absolutely everywhere. Just 1 hour later, the hall was completely packed. Wealthy magnates gathered in groups, chatting lively. Eavesdropping a bit, he hears the ultimate rumor. A 5,000-year-old meteorite is hitting the auction block today. In his past life, after the spiritual awakening, regular antiques like this were totally useless. But jade that soaked up energy became spirit stones. These gave cultivators huge power boosts, making them incredibly rare and valuable treasures to find. But that ancient meteorite they mentioned, he was far more interested. Before his regression, Leonard hoarded several different meteorites. He used the Grand Valley secret realm to forge them into epic treasures. That single move made the Leonard family power completely skyrocket, turning them into a top 10 national powerhouse. Now pay close attention here. He swore to grab this rock at absolutely all costs. He figured nobody cared, but some completely clueless fool was actually gunning for it. The event officially kicked off. The auctioneer stepped right up, bright spotlights shining directly on him. He opened his arms, smiled brightly, and bowed deeply. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining the Empire Group auction. I am Marcus, and I am highly honored to be your host for this spectacular evening event. His introduction dragged on for over 10 minutes. Totally boring. Finally, an elegant girl wearing a cheongsam pushed the very first auction item onto the stage. First up was a rare medieval tricolor vase representing the Silk Road. The starting price opened at $5 million. Instantly, the hall buzzed with excitement. Tricolor pottery is a signature medieval symbol, making it an absolute dream treasure for any serious collector out there. But to our hero, this vase had absolutely zero value. In his past life, after the energy revived, these things stayed completely normal. So he did not bother bidding. After several wild rounds of bidding, a rich tycoon bought the vase for $12 million. The second item was a pair of Bronze Age jade pendants. Experts say they are the absolute oldest jade pendants ever discovered. The starting price opened at just $1 million. Shockingly, nobody made a bid. The reason was extremely simple. Everyone assumed jade could never survive thousands of years intact, so they obviously must be fake. As the host awkwardly prepared to skip the item, he suddenly spoke up. $1 million, I will take it. Everyone looked over, instantly erupting into mocking laughter. He did not care at all because he knew just how insanely valuable those Bronze Age jade pendants would become later. Over the next 40 minutes, it was just paintings, calligraphy, and normal antiques. He was not interested in the slightest. After that boring stretch, the second-to-last item arrived. You and I both know the real show starts right here. Many folks came just for this. Seriously, calling this thing an ordinary antique is a massive understatement. Its value is basically limitless. Marcus maintained his cool elegance, feeling the room heating up. He clapped his hands, and two stunning girls in elegant cheongsams pushed a stand onto stage. On it sat a green bronze box. Wearing pristine gloves, Marcus slowly popped the lid open under the crowd's intense gaze, revealing the actual prize inside. A reddish-brown stone the size of a basketball, jagged, weird, and radiating faint heat. He was completely shocked inside. From its jagged shape to that unique aura, it perfectly matched the meteorite Leonard randomly bought back in his previous life. Marcus spread his arms wide and said mysteriously, "Ladies and gentlemen, this stone is truly special. Based on expert appraisal and deep archaeological data, this is a 5,000-year-old meteorite. Plus, it holds 80 completely unknown trace minerals. The starting price is $20 million, with each jump being at least $2 million. Let the bidding begin." The words barely dropped before he shouted without hesitation. $30 million. The whole hall was stunned. An angry guy yelled out, "What kind of bid is that, 32 million?" Without pausing, 50 million. The dude was totally furious. "I am Sean, chairman of the Horizon Group. Show some respect, 52 million. That massive flex terrified the other bidders. Horizon is the second biggest group in Trenton, trailing only behind North Star. But he did not care at all, calmly raising his paddle 80 million. Sean practically exploded with rage, shouting back to save face 90 million. The whole room went dead silent. Trust me, you and I both know everyone looked at those two like they were absolute maniacs. 1 billion, 2 billion, 5 billion. The wealthy tycoons stared wide-eyed at me. Even though many guys had tens of billions saved, nobody dared to spend like that. Even Marcus was completely dumbfounded. Stick with me here. Working for decades, he had never seen an auction this wild. According to his estimates, this rock was 50 million tops. Sean gritted his teeth hard. 2 billion was his cash limit, and 5 billion was his strict father's absolute maximum. But how could he show weakness now? 8 billion, he shouted out loud. To regular folks, astronomically huge. Even for rich billionaires, it is huge. But for Horizon, they could definitely still afford it. I was slightly surprised, but still coldly raised my paddle up. 10 billion. The entire hall went so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Nobody spoke a single word anymore. Sean went pale and slumped back in his chair. But then he reacted and loudly roared, 10 billion for a worthless stone. Truly the prodigal son of North Star, the biggest fool in the nation. Most people agreed with him, too. But I felt extremely satisfied with tonight's epic auction. Just as I was leaving, Marcus suddenly called out, "Mr. Arthur, please wait one moment. Our esteemed chairman really wishes to meet you." I did not refuse, following Marcus straight into the massive Empire building. In the luxurious top-floor office, a refined, middle-aged man stood up wearing a gentle smile. I gave a nod and sat on the sofa. He introduced himself as Stephen, chairman of Empire. I simply glanced at him. Stephen is a national business legend, single-handedly building the Empire Group, creating the Empire Building, and basically monopolizing the entire ancient antiquities industry. Annual transaction fees alone reach trillions. After the spiritual energy revived, he spotted clues first, quickly starting to hoard tons of precious rare jade. He later became the guy owning the most national treasures, providing massive financial support to the government. I invited Mr. Arthur because Marcus mentioned you have a massive interest in ancient historical antiquities. I have a few things here that might interest you. Stephen sat down personally, poured me some warm tea, and then pulled out 2 incredibly exquisite little wooden boxes. Opening them up, inside were over a dozen finger-sized dark red pills, oval-shaped, looking exactly like those magic elixirs straight out of a cultivation novel. Now watch closely. My heart surged with excitement. These useless-looking wooden pills are actually powerful elixirs entirely depleted of spiritual energy. Once the spiritual energy fully revives, swallowing them will rapidly skyrocket your cultivation realm level. When the primordials gather, ferocious beasts and those massive flood dragons descend, these elixirs become crucial tools for human cultivators to level up, eventually becoming insanely rare. The quality is just average. I hid my massive excitement, keeping a calm face. Stephen smiled nicely. I might look foolish, but I guarantee these things are definitely not ordinary at all. How about we do this? I really want to be friends, Brother Arthur. These elixirs, 5 million each. What do you say? I glanced over, wildly joyful inside, but still pretended to be hesitant. All right, fine. How many does Chairman Stephen actually have? I will buy them all. I bought 100 pills, 5 million each. Leaving the Empire Building, I headed home to plan my next big move. Roughly 3 months before the spiritual energy fully revives, strange global phenomena will start appearing everywhere, grabbing the attention of several massive major factions. So I must complete my entire layout within 3 months to seize control. Next, using this free time, I decided to head straight out to ancient Northshire. According to memories from my past life, after the awakening, many cultivation technique manuals randomly appeared in Lucas Village, an ancient Northshire town. The crazy part was that other places rarely saw this weird phenomenon. Later, someone investigated and found a crazy, unkempt old man with totally white hair living there. Before the huge energy revival, he traveled all over the place, aggressively peddling random old martial arts training manuals. You and I know regular folks just called him a crazy scammer buying absolutely nothing. But after the massive spiritual energy revived, those exact manuals turned out to be genuine, totally real cultivation techniques. My next big goal is finding this crazy old man at all costs. At a street corner in ancient Northshire, I patiently sat eating a simple noodle bowl every single day. Finally, after 4 long waiting days, that old man actually appeared. He walked super unsteadily, using a cane carrying a worn cloth bag. He casually picked a spot on the dirty ground and ripped open the heavy cloth bag. The ancient books fell right out. He started shouting loudly, "Look here, look here! Divine martial arts manuals. A once-in-a-thousand-years opportunity. Never miss it." I asked the price. The old man looked up, smiling at my aura. "Trust me, you will want to see what happens next with this guy. 50 per book. Bulk buys get a discount," he said. "Young man, want to take a look around?" I smiled slightly, glancing at the pile on the ground. Casually flipping through, I spotted hand-drawn martial arts moves complete with detailed notes. "Trust me, you and I know exactly what these are. Real cultivation techniques for when the spiritual energy fully revives. Pack them all up." I stood tall, pointing right at that massive pile of dusty manuals. The old man's face lit up with pure joy. He hurried to pack everything and handed them over, completely terrified I might suddenly change my mind. "Kid, the total is 3,500. I will even throw in 10 extra books for free." My assistant immediately handed over the cash. Manuals secured, I headed straight back to the massive estate to start plotting out my next big move. Over the next 6 days, Shirley and her expedition group sent an update. They found huge clues and were super close to locating King Arthur's actual tomb. The Great Northern Forest team had updates too. They located some lightning wood trees, but the quality just was not high enough yet. But they promised that since they found standard lightning wood, the 1,000-year-old version was definitely nearby. I was not stressed about that news. I was waiting for something way better anyway. Knock, knock, knock. Assistant Simon pushed the heavy door open. He walked in holding a tablet, a massive, joyful grin on his face. "Mr. Leo took the bait." My eyes instantly lit up. Now pay close attention to this part. Over in Trenton's biggest nightclub, a blonde guy wearing a sharp dress shirt stood beside an incredibly stunning girl who was completely fast asleep. This guy was Leo, the ambitious son of Leonard, the powerful North Star Group chairman. But because Leo totally lacked real talent, Leonard kept him entirely out of official group business. Even worse, Leonard wanted to promote his illegitimate son Luke to vice president, handing him total financial control. Leo absolutely could not handle that massive insult, so he hit the nightclub to escape reality. But suddenly his private room door was forcefully pushed wide open. It was the nightclub owner, Seth. He was actually an old acquaintance of Leo. Seth rushed over, looked at the sleeping girl, and gasped, "Young Master Leo, I think something terrible just happened." Leo frowned hard and quickly stood up. "What are you talking about?" Seth looked dead serious and immediately lowered his voice. "Do you have any idea who that sleeping girl is?" Leo just sneered completely dismissively. "The music department beauty from Trenton University. Why does it even matter?" Seth stared, carefully enunciating every single word. "She is actually Diana, the only daughter of Dennis, the powerful Trenton Finance Bureau director. She is his precious jewel, basically considered the innocent white lily of Trenton high society." Leo totally froze, then instantly started swearing at Seth. "What are you getting at? Are you trying to mess with me right now?" Seth sighed heavily. "Look, I do not know her either. But a missing person notice went out last night. We checked the photos." Saying that, he pulled out his phone and showed the exact notice to Leo. Leo glanced at it. His scalp went numb as pure, absolute panic filled him. Let that sink in for a second. The Finance Bureau director's daughter. If her powerful family found out, he was completely doomed. Leo totally panicked and lost his mind. He would rather handle this himself than ever seek help from his family. "What do I do, Boss Seth? I beg you, help me." Leo's attitude just did a full 180-degree turn. A mocking smile flashed across Seth's face, but he instantly looked serious. "Young Master Leo, our hands are completely tied here too." "This definitely cannot be hidden. This is the Finance Bureau director's daughter." Leo freaked out. "Then what do I do? Tell me?" Seth pretended to think for a moment before speaking slowly. "There is one way. Diana absolutely loves rare antiques. If you sell or gift her a few priceless antique items, maybe she will keep this a secret." Leo was stunned, then suddenly realized he was a massive collector himself. Giving away a few antiques would be super easy. He nodded frantically. "No problem, Seth. I am relying on you to arrange this." Seth nodded. "Young Master Leo, just pretend you do not know anything." Just do what you normally do and wait for my news." A few days later, a gorgeous girl in a long purple dress arrived at Leo's house. It was exactly Diana, the precious daughter of the Trenton Finance Bureau director. Leo immediately put on a flattering act. "I heard you love antiques, Miss Diana. If you need anything, just say it. If you want, you can check out my private collection." Diana sat gracefully on the sofa, thought for a second, and nodded. Leo eagerly led her through the winding hallways straight to his collection room. As the heavy doors swung open, an absolutely magnificent space revealed itself. The room was over 600 square meters, completely packed to the brim with precious ancient swords and calligraphy. Leo proudly introduced each item, but Diana just stayed totally silent. "You and I know something wild is coming next. Stick with me here. We are about to uncover a totally wild hidden treasure. These antiques just will not cut it. Bring out something way more valuable, Leo. Otherwise, you definitely know the serious consequences." Leo completely panicked, sweating nervously as he rushed to explain about a mysterious temple treasure from Tibet with a totally unknown origin. He practically sprinted to the corner of the room, wiping the nervous sweat off his forehead, quickly unlocked a hidden safe, and pulled out a small, very secure-looking storage box. Inside sat a pitch-black Bodhi seed, just the size of a finger, looking completely and utterly ordinary. Leo held the tiny seed incredibly carefully. He explained how he found it while traveling through a remote Tibetan temple. A senior monk swore this Bodhi seed was incredibly rare. When the perfect time finally arrives, it will basically shine brilliantly. He was told to keep it safe. Diana just glared at it, completely unimpressed. It looked so basic. Why even brag? Leo immediately panicked and told Miss Diana not to judge. Even though this dried-up seed looks like literal garbage right now, he insisted it was special. They just had not figured out exactly how to activate its true power yet. Diana rolled her eyes. Fine. If he had nothing else, she would buy the seed. In exchange, she promised to keep absolutely quiet about last night. Leo hesitated for a second, feeling totally caught off guard. Honestly, he had paid a massive fortune for this exact item. Plus, he felt a strange connection to it and really hated letting it go. Diana just gave him a freezing glare. Terrified, Leo instantly caved. He agreed to hand it over as long as Miss Diana swore to keep last night an absolute secret from everyone else. Later that night at my private estate, when the assistant finally delivered the seed, I smiled with pure satisfaction. Sure, this little seed looks completely useless, but watch closely when the spiritual energy returns you. And I know this becomes an absolute game-changing cultivation treasure. Mr. Arthur, according to our top informants, we learned that when Leo originally bought this item, a senior monk actually promised him it would beautifully shine at a very special time. Simon reported respectfully. My eyes instantly lit up. Someone knew about the spiritual return 3 whole years ago. I absolutely had to meet this legendary monk. Who knows what other epic treasures he might have? I decided to fly straight out to Tibet tomorrow morning. Keeping this mission completely off the radar, I followed the intel directly to the origin of the seed, the famous and mysterious Dragon Cliff Temple. Staring up at the ancient signboard right outside the gates, my heart raced. So this was the legendary location. Here is the wild part you and I need to remember. In my past life, this temple got attacked first when the beasts arrived. When the massive horde attacked, humanity took massive losses. But the brave monks at Dragon Cliff, thanks to the intense spiritual energy and a super powerful ancient barrier, they actually held off the terrifying primordial beast tribe for 3 whole years straight. It took a literal king-level powerhouse showing up to finally crush the temple completely into the dirt. Pushing those heavy memories aside, I fixed my jacket and confidently walked inside. A monk in a deep red robe calmly stepped up to greet me. He asked if I was visiting to pray or study. I just smiled warmly and formally introduced myself, paying my deep respects to the master. I told him I came for both studying and prayer. I respectfully asked the great master to kindly guide me inside today. Out of pure respect for their past life sacrifices, I made sure to act completely humble and polite. He guided me right into the main hall. Inside, a very kind-looking older monk in a vibrant red robe was currently teaching a deep lesson on the ancient scriptures. Over 30 monks sat silently on their meditation cushions, listening with absolute focus. Nobody really noticed me walk in, so I quietly sat down and peacefully tuned into the deep lecture. 40 minutes later, a bell echoed, ending the session. The monks slowly filed out, leaving only me and the head abbot alone in the massive room. I got straight to business, greeting him politely. I explained I traveled all this way because I had a very important question. I hoped he could enlighten me. The abbot just smiled, raising his hand and telling me to speak freely. He promised total honesty. I mentioned how 3 whole years ago he gifted a very strange dried-up Bodhi seed to a random young guy. Through pure fate, that item is now mine. I just wanted to know exactly where he originally found it. No beating around the bush. The abbot pressed his hands together, noting that I must have a serious cosmic connection to the item. He calmly explained that he had simply stumbled across that seed randomly on the mountain. Sensing a connection that day, he originally gave it to Leo for free. But since Leo practically forced him to take a massive payment, the humble monk eventually accepted the cash. As for its true origin, he had no clue. Since it reached my hands, its destiny was now officially tied to my own journey. I was honestly a bit disappointed. With 0 clear clues about the seed, I just slowly nodded. I thanked him and left. So what happens now? Trust me, our real journey is just starting. Stick with me here. You and I are about to watch pure destiny unfold. Please stay. The old abbot suddenly stands right up. Now that the legendary Bodhi seed belongs to you if my guess hits the mark. Dragoncliff Temple might actually need your help later. My heart drops, pupils completely shrinking. This wise abbot seriously has the wild gift of foresight. Could he actually know about the spiritual energy revival and the massive impending tribulation? You really need not be surprised. He smiles. I am merely guessing, but since you are already here, I actually have an incredible item I wish to gift you today. Please just follow me now. I follow the wise abbot halfway up the giant mountain behind the temple. He suddenly turns around and asks, "What do you think of this entire mountain terrain?" I stand halfway up the steep mountain looking down. The winding mountain ranges look exactly like a massive coiling dragon. The old abbot simply smiles without speaking, then points right at the peaks above. I look up, squinting my eyes, and gasp. The surrounding peaks right above my head look just like a soaring dragon. "Great Master, what is this?" The abbot waves his hand. I once accidentally picked up an ancient item halfway up this huge mountain, but unable to crack its profound mysteries, I just kept it hidden. Saying that, he bends down, parts a patch of dry grass, and pulls out a pitch-black dragon-shaped stone, gently handing it right over. "This strange item has a real connection with you. Today I am officially gifting it. I just hope that later you can lend Dragoncliff Temple a huge hand and save this place from turning into absolute dust." My heart completely skips a beat. Watch closely now. This monk definitely reached a godlike tier, predicting the entire spiritual energy revival. I just nod. "Please rest easy, Great Master. If that day comes, Arthur will definitely back you up." The abbot nods. I suddenly remember something and speak up. To be totally honest, coming here today, I also wanted to grab one special item. If I were an ordinary guy, this move might seem super greedy and totally out of line. But the kind abbot of Dragoncliff Temple does not get mad, nor does he think my request is too much. He simply smiles. "What item?" "It is a special rope that water and fire cannot harm. Swords cannot cut it. Pure, raw strength cannot snap it. Packing extremely high durability. The cold mountain wind blows past." The abbot suddenly drops his smile, his face turning super serious, like he is asking about the literal destiny of our world. "Have you seriously thought this through?" I look right at him, my eyes totally firm and full of deep respect, nodding. The abbot falls into deep thought, staring at the giant dragon-like mountains, then back at me. Finally, as if making a huge choice, he speaks. "Since that is the case, if you have truly decided, I will say nothing more. This magic rope is a very special item. Once you actually use it, you must carry all the attached karma. Later, if you fully master it, never forget your true original goal." "That is perfect." I nod. "I will definitely not let your high expectations down. We both sense it, right?" From my past life memories, this temple boasts a legendary origin. Legends say this epic temple stood for over 1,000 years, surviving endless crazy renovations yet standing tall. After the massive energy revival, this exact mountain peak transformed into a glorious ancestral dragon, its soul and giant bones stretching endlessly. Down at the mountain base, a wild tiger roar literally shakes heaven and earth. Dragoncliff Temple. Thanks to its ancient, weather-beaten relics soaking up heaven and earth's raw energy, it blocked endless attack waves from vicious monster beasts and the primordial tribe, safely shielding everyone for so many years. That same afternoon, after enjoying a simple meal and listening to wise scriptures, I follow the old abbot to his quiet meditation room. He grabs a rope from the dusty corner, roughly 2 meters long. "Young man, this must be the exact legendary rope you desire." I carefully take the rope, gently touching and inspecting it. Besides its crazy elasticity, it looks completely normal. But feeling the intense aura radiating off it, I am absolutely certain this is the ultimate precursor treasure for the massive spiritual energy revival. Thank you so much, Great Master. If disaster ever strikes Dragoncliff Temple, Arthur will definitely step up to fight. The abbot simply closes his eyes, sitting on his cushion without saying a single word more. I slowly stand up, leaving the meditation room. I grab my assistant and start the journey back. But entirely unaware, right after I leave, a young monk walks in and discovers the beloved abbot has actually peacefully passed away. That exact day, Elder Master Fabian of Dragoncliff Temple departed. So what do you and I make of this? Temples everywhere shake, monks praying endlessly. Hitting Trenton and hearing this heavy news, my own heart just completely drops in pure shock. I finally understood. Stick with me here. Master Fabian saw his destiny, and with zero regrets, he totally ascended, stepping right into the gate of emptiness. Time flowed exactly like a river, and boom, an entire month just flew right by. Using my crazy past life memories, I absolutely blew tens of billions buying up super rare antiques all over the country, literally packing an entire giant room full. Meanwhile, the wild rumors about me burning through cash like crazy, blowing past 100 billion, completely exploded across the whole city of Trenton. Once the top young genius of North Star Group I was suddenly just a useless rich kid to everyone. 2 short months changed my vibe entirely. Simon stood there with his tablet, nervously reading all the brutal online hate out loud. Facing this massive wave of wild rumors and nasty slander, I totally knew Leonard and those shady major corporations were secretly manipulating everything behind the scenes, or maybe greedy reporters just wanted some cheap internet traffic to boost their views. They definitely used this drama to make North Star's stock absolutely skyrocket. I just swirled my wineglass, feeling completely chill and super calm inside. I understood Leonard's pathetic skills way too perfectly. The guy had zero talent to expand, totally lacked power to defend any city, and his strategic vision was just completely awful. Those corporate bosses only cared about quick profits, riding those short-term waves. With a guy like him as chairman, North Star Group was definitely heading straight for disaster. Honestly, though, none of that mattered anymore. In exactly 6 months, money and giant corporations would literally become nothing but useless scrap paper. I just turned around and smiled super mysteriously at Simon. Use every single media connection, partner up with social networks, and drop massive cash to push this crazy hype even higher up. Make this fire burn totally wild. Simon stared at me with pure shock and doubt on his face, but kept quiet and quickly left the room. Now, watch closely. My strategy was actually super simple. All this massive attention was totally ruining the setup for my next secret moves, especially epic things like the ancient lightning wood or King Arthur's tomb. Instead of letting people watch me closely, I wanted to fuel the storm myself, totally locking in my fake rich kid image forever. When the right time arrives, no matter what wild stuff I do, nobody will care at all, and everyone will just forget me entirely. Just like that, Simon worked his magic. 10 huge streaming platforms and 8 major social networks instantly blasted crazy videos about me everywhere. Internet bloggers started heavily analyzing everything, entirely obsessing over Arthur dumping shares, totally wrecking his fortune, and burning cash like a maniac. From the ultimate national business genius, I had officially turned into a massive, embarrassing joke. Everyone online was constantly mocking and hating me. Some theories even sounded extremely convincing. Chilling at home, reading that endless sarcasm, I just smirked. My brilliant trap had worked. You see it, right? The name Arthur is now officially a total joke. Even if I pull off insane stunts later, nobody is going to care at all. My disguise was flawless. Now I seriously needed to prepare for the upcoming Great Tribulation. Standing right there, I tapped the smart wall and commanded little boy pull up all the intel on that abandoned mine in Winston City. My trusty assistant and I headed straight there, meeting the local boss inside a super rundown guardhouse. Back in the glory days, this was totally Winston City's biggest mining operation. The main guy, Uncle Victor, used to be a super famous boss rolling in cash, knowing all the huge Winston City elites. Then a totally wild mystery suddenly occurred. Those ultra-rare stones inside the mine simply stopped coming out. After that, the entire business crashed with zero income, but that massive land lease still demanded full payment. Uncle Victor basically crashed from absolute heaven straight down to rock bottom. The guy completely lost everything. His car and house were gone, his wife bailed, and every single friend ditched him. Literally nobody wanted to touch this useless, abandoned mine. Uncle Victor was totally trapped with nowhere to hide, wasting his days here, desperately hoping those precious magical ores would somehow return again. Standing inside that totally busted room, I stared at the broken-down guy right in front of me and politely reached out my hand. "Hey, Uncle Victor." He looked super suspicious, but quickly wiped his dirty hands on his shirt before shaking mine. "Hello there, young man. Please sit. The place is super cramped, hope you don't mind." Uncle Victor gave a sad smile and yelled out, "Dave, brew us some tea." A young teenager slowly sat up, tossed his phone aside, and started boiling some hot water. I quickly glanced at him, a sharp light instantly flashing in my eyes. If my memory is right, this Dave kid is literally born with insane, boundless physical power. Once the world's spiritual energy fully awakens, he uses that monstrous strength to completely defend Winston City from terrifying beasts. My nephew never got to finish school, so his folks sent him out here to gain real-life experience. Uncle Victor grinned, offering a cheap cigarette and puffing thick smoke. You and I both know he noticed instantly. "Looking at your aura, you are definitely a boss. Stick with me, this mysterious journey begins right in these ruins." I confidently lit a cheap cigar, puffing a perfect smoke ring like a total pro. Years ago, Victor was the absolute boss of Winston City's entire mining industry. But after a super bizarre event, the whole place shut down and crumbled. Refusing to give up your incredible life's work and holding on to hope, you drained your entire fortune, keeping this mine going for 10 years, hitting absolute rock bottom. Victor scowled deeply, his expression freezing with a sharp glare. "If you came to mock me, leave now. I have heard enough insults for 10 years. I replied seriously, "Mr. Victor, you completely misunderstand. I genuinely admire your amazing willpower. I want to buy this mine for 10 billion, but you keep full management rights. You run everything. Plus, I will hand over 20 billion in cash for you to use freely." Victor gasped, his face showing pure suspicion and absolute shock. "Why should I trust you?" To him, spending 30 billion in raw cash sounded like pure fantasy. "I am Arthur." I smiled brightly. Hearing that, Victor jolted back. "You are Arthur, the biggest prodigal son ever." I just smiled and continued. "My request is simple. 10 billion buys the mine's ownership, but you get 10% of the shares. Spend the remaining 20 billion freely for 5 months to build a brand new mine. After that, I take control, but you keep enjoying those sweet dividends. Plus, Dave stays to help out for 100,000 a month." Victor's jaw dropped completely. You and I know those crazy rumors were absolutely right. I kept quiet, but inside I was cheering. Once spiritual energy awakens, this totally ruined mine will pump out spirit stones, becoming an unbelievably precious resource. Using the Grand Valley Secret Realm as my base. With this place generating energy and magical artifacts, I will absolutely crush my past life. Deal done. Then I spent 3 solid days hyping up Victor, a guy whose legendary willpower had slowly faded over the long, hard years. He started rebuilding. Victor asked if the mine has 0 ore left. What business are we doing? I simply didn't answer him directly, just telling him to gather loyal workers, build massive walls, clear the junk, and pave a solid road to the city. That is his 5-month mission. Then I take over. No worries, Victor still had doubts, but he stayed totally quiet. During those days, I chatted with Dave, realizing his soul was incredibly pure, despite his unmatched power. I know what you're thinking. He'll make an absolutely epic future assistant. Back home, I got a massive update that King Arthur's tomb was finally discovered. It was incredibly dangerous. Shirley's crew took heavy losses and demanded a much higher price. I instantly paid 5 million more for one demand. Bring me the 3 swords within 3 months. Meanwhile, on another front, that crazy Northshire elder called about a super mysterious cultivation manual begging me to visit. But first, I had one more mission. Recently, 9 huge corporations spammed me with over a dozen invitations to be their special guest. That evening inside Leonard's luxury villa, 20 powerful leaders from those 9 major corporations gathered around. They invited me because of my flawless prodigal son act. Leonard wanted to block my funding, ruining my epic comeback, so he teamed up with everyone hoarding old antiques to exploit my collector hobby, trapping me right into a super sneaky ambush banquet. Bosses, Mr. Arthur has finally arrived. Leonard's butler led me inside. Everyone rejoiced, staring straight at the door together. I casually scanned the crowd, smiling calmly. Sorry for the wait, Arthur has arrived. Leonard grinned brightly, faking a caring uncle vibe. Arthur, I fought right beside your father in business. I truly hate seeing you squander your money like this. He crushed his cigar, speaking sadly. Days ago, I dreamed of your father. He blamed me for failing North Star. I woke up totally sobbing. If you need cash, I will gladly buy your shares back anytime. The guy actually squeezed out fake tears, pulling a fancy handkerchief to wipe his lying face. So what do you and I make of this? We totally see right through his incredibly fake acting. Uncle Leonard, please stop. The shares are sold and I am absolutely not buying them back. Let's dive right in. You and I are about to watch an epic flex. My life is perfect. Let's skip the small talk. I played the part perfectly. Pure arrogance. I didn't even bother looking anyone in the eye, totally nailing that spoiled young master vibe. Leonard smirked. I heard you're buying antiques everywhere, he said. We uncles actually have a few rare items. Take a look. Do not worry about the price. We will give them to you for exactly what we paid. However, this specific batch of artifacts, along with some prime plots of land, might just carry a pretty hefty price tag. Leonard acted all concerned, his voice dropping carefully. But I just kept up my arrogant act. Just bring out the items first. We can discuss the price later. Stop wasting my time. The older chairman looked absolutely furious. If they weren't trying to completely empty my wallet, they would have exploded. Following Leonard's lead, everyone finally revealed their deeply guarded precious antique collections. Seeing those items, I was secretly thrilled. A Tang-style jade, an icy snow pearl, an East Sea glowing pearl, dried elixirs, and multiple land plots secretly hiding ancient power zones. Inside, I was screaming with joy. Outside, totally bored, criticizing everything. While I casually picked through them, the older guys were sweating. They were absolutely terrified I would walk away and ruin their scheme. 2 hours later, I finished checking it all. Leaning back, I yawned. I thought you guys had impressive stuff. Turns out it is just this garbage. Watch closely. Give me a price. Leonard hid his excitement and dropped a crazy number. 200 billion. Everyone stared right at me. The actual worth of all this junk definitely less than 50 billion. They totally expected me to negotiate. The room went silent. Everyone held their breath. But instead, I just gave a cold smile. Pack it all up. Sign the papers within 7 days. Dropping that bomb, I stood up and simply walked out. Minutes later, the shock wore off. The whole room exploded into wild, mocking laughter. Back at the estate, I reviewed my massive haul. I told my assistant to handle all the boring paperwork from here on. Soon, I needed to travel back to Northshire. It was time to see exactly what mysterious power manual that crazy old guy was finally going to reveal. Seeing him again, I was genuinely stunned. His hair was perfectly styled, and he was rocking a ridiculously expensive designer suit. His leather shoes were spotless, and right on his wrist, a shining $1 million watch. 4 huge bodyguards shadowed his every move. Mr. Arthur, please step right this way. The old guy was incredibly polite, smiling brightly as he warmly shook my hand. He certainly wasn't some wild street beggar anymore. Now he was a rich bachelor living in a massive Lucas Village mansion, casually driving luxury supercars. He guided me inside his flashy villa, waved away his staff, and pulled a very expensive bottle of premium brandy right off the shelf. Mr. Arthur, give this a try. I nodded and accepted the glass. I came for one reason. I need to see that ancient heavenly book you bragged about on the phone. He just nodded, walked over to a heavy safe in the corner, and pulled out a worn book with ancient yellow pages. He handed it right over. I grabbed it and checked the cover. The faded letters clearly read Classic Heavenly Book Volume 1. You and I both know this is huge. From my past life memories, I knew this book was the legendary treasure of a master. Back in those days, that legendary expert was only at the peak divine treasury tier, but thanks to these 2 powerful books, he fought equally against terrifying beasts near the absolute true king level. It was truly incredible power. This was exactly the prize I needed. Just like last time, I will pay 50 million, I said quickly, tucking the precious book away. To anyone else, the old guy totally ripped me off. Dropping 50 million on some dusty pages seemed like absolute madness to normal people. But once the world's spiritual energy finally awakens, this book becomes a truly priceless treasure. You couldn't buy it with a mountain of spirit stones. Deal. The man grinned. Mr. Arthur, go ahead and take it with you. Sending the cash later is perfectly fine. Before walking out, I had to ask one thing. Where exactly did you find this? Mr. Young just smiled widely. South Sun Mountain right behind Lucas Village. But finding something like this, it purely requires destiny. I honestly just stumbled onto it. Mr. Arthur, if you are curious, take a hike up there. I nodded, left the fancy villa, and headed straight towards South Sun Mountain just like he suggested. Sitting north of Lucas Village, it's actually linked to the Himalayas. Over 900 meters tall, completely wild, and the rocky path is brutally hard to climb. Finally hitting the top, I rested on a giant rock and looked around. Nothing amazing. It was totally empty up here. Besides some plants and basic wildlife, there was absolutely nothing to see. 30 minutes passed. I was ready to quit, but trust me, you are going to love who showed up next. My eyes went completely wide. White hair, a flowing black robe, holding a whisk, carrying an ancient sword on his back and wearing a classic blue lotus hat. Gliding up the steep mountain path, he moved like lightning, stepping as effortlessly as walking on air. The Taoist spotted me and completely froze. Stick with me here. He definitely did not expect visitors on South Sun Mountain. He missed my identity, but I knew him immediately, Master Henderson, the absolute legend leading the White Cloud Temple. 10 years after the spiritual energy awakened, he appeared and completely destroyed a true king powerhouse from the primordial tribe with one sword strike, shocking the entire nation. Greetings, Taoist Master Henderson. I clasped my hands, showing massive respect. Startled, the master returned my formal greeting with a totally shocked expression. This humble Taoist usually lives in the eastern extreme sea, rarely ever stepping foot inland. How exactly do you know who I am? I just blinked and smiled. Simply destiny. Henderson burst into loud laughter. Wonderfully said. It seems meeting here today is truly destiny. If my guess is right, the legendary classic heavenly book has fallen into your hands. Am I correct? My heart actually raced. Now watch closely, this exact moment changes everything. Had Henderson already seen through celestial secrets, predicting the 2 heavenly books and the future spiritual energy revival? Knowing his solid character, I chose not to hide anything at all and simply nodded. The heavenly book is securely in my hands. Does the Taoist master wish to reclaim it? Henderson just shook his head and smiled. No. The classic heavenly book possesses mysterious origins. Only those blessed by destiny can hold it. Since you have obtained it, how could I ask for it back? Keep it safe. Who knows, one day it might be incredibly necessary. Just ensure you never forget your original heart and noble mission. Honestly, I was completely amazed. Clearly, Henderson knew something huge. Hesitating for a moment, I formally asked, "Please enlighten me, Master. What makes South Sun Mountain so special?" Henderson's eyes sparked. Waving his whisk, he replied, "Celestial secrets simply cannot be revealed today. Little friend, us meeting here today is pure destiny. If fate allows in the future, perhaps our paths will cross once again." Finishing his wise words, his figure flashed rapidly, descending the mountain. I quickly looked, but in just the blink of an eye, he was entirely gone. Time flew by. 1 full month passed since my trip to South Sun Mountain. All my big projects were progressing perfectly. Suddenly, epic news arrived from the Great Northern Forest. They finally found the ancient lightning wood. Hearing this, I immediately jumped into the helicopter piloted by Hugh, soaring toward the Great Northern Forest at max speed. Inside an abandoned workshop at the mountain base, I finally laid eyes on the legendary lightning wood. The trunk stood 3 meters tall with a 40-centimeter diameter. Its outer bark was pitch black, deeply scorched by pure lightning, yet it radiated a faint gray aura. You and I both know what comes next. In my past life, a major family forged this exact lightning wood into an absolutely legendary immortal spear. Every single time it swung, divine light flashed and powerful thunder shook the heavens. I reached out, touching the rough, charged surface of the lightning wood. Glancing at the manager standing nearby with a huge, welcoming smile, I casually handed him a solid black card. $5 million. The transfer happens tonight, and your people can withdraw it immediately. This is an extra $1 million just for your bonus, but I have one strict request. Everything must stay completely secret for at least 3 months. Can you manage that? The manager was absolutely overjoyed and hurriedly nodded. Rest assured, boss. My people are pure mountain locals who rarely ever interact with the outside world. Absolutely trustworthy. After finishing up the epic lightning wood deal, I stayed up north for a few extra days, securing more necessary supplies before hauling everything back to Trenton. Just stepping off the helicopter, my assistant hurriedly reported some totally amazing news. Boss, great news from the Empire Group. They successfully collected 10,000 precious withered elixirs. My eyes lit up, feeling totally energized. These elixirs would become absolute crucial treasures later. Even without proper cultivation, swallowing just one pill could push anyone to the peak of the divine treasury realm. Let us go see them immediately. That afternoon, I reached the Empire building. Unlike before this time, Chairman Stephen showed serious signs of deep, unsettling anxiety on his face. Mr. Arthur, I recently heard a few wild rumors. The future situation is really not optimistic. Stephen looked at me, doubting and totally probing, his voice dripping with worry. I avoided answering directly, calmly asking, "What crazy news have you heard?" Anxious Stephen stood up, slumped onto the sofa, and shook his head. Nothing specific, just friends warning me that a massive event might happen soon, completely affecting the entire world. Recently, buying antiques down in Riverdale, I accidentally noticed a few mysterious ancient families suddenly reappearing from nowhere. Trust me, they're collecting antiques. All right, stick with me here. Normally, these ancient families completely ignore the antique market, so I instantly guessed a massive, mysterious event was kicking off. My expression stayed perfectly calm, but inside I was absolutely reeling. In my past life, shady factions started hoarding antiques and lands with hidden realms, but that wasn't supposed to happen for another 8 months. Now, with just 4 months until spiritual energy returns, these ancient families are moving way ahead of schedule. I told the chairman not to worry. I told him if soldiers attack generals, we'll stop them. If a flood comes, the earth will block it. Wanting to drop the subject, I quickly moved on. Chairman, I promised to buy this entire batch of withered elixirs at our usual price. Stephen just nodded and signaled his assistant to bring the wooden boxes inside. Inside sat dozens of withered elixirs, over 10,000 pills in total this time. Still the exact same price, 5 billion. Stephen played the perfect merchant. This deal brought him 4 billion in profit, which was easily enough to make him ignore any doubts about those ancient families. I smiled, cheerfully nodded, and prepared to leave. Right before I left, Stephen suddenly stopped me. "Mr. Arthur, your recent moves have cost tens of billions." He said he knew he shouldn't pry, but warned me that the ancient families are totally different from the 9 major corporate groups. If you ever bump heads with them in the future, please just try to endure it. Stephen was genuinely treating me like a real friend. I had gone from a simple business partner to someone he completely trusted. Beyond the crazy profits, he sensed I'd become a major player in the coming chaos. Watch closely, because you and I know this matters. No matter what happened, the Empire Group would always stand right beside Brother Arthur. I nodded, looking back at him with immense gratitude. From my past life memories, the Empire Group eventually joined the nation's official protective organization. They helped fight off fierce beasts, kept local groups in check, and maintained perfect order. Having their full support in the future was definitely going to be a massive advantage. Meanwhile, inside a hidden pavilion in Riverdale, an intense, secret meeting was happening. A white-haired man over 60 leaned back in the grand chair, eyes halfway closed. He radiated an intensely majestic aura without even getting angry. This was Morgan, the absolute head of Riverdale's top ancient family and the father of Matthew Morgan. Sitting below him were the core members. The Morgan family had dominated Riverdale for centuries, holding on to a colossal enterprise and totally unbelievable levels of wealth. They were once strong enough to challenge the entire Riverdale financial alliance. More than half of the top corporate chairmen in that room belonged to the Morgan family. Matthew announced that after a month of hard work, they had snagged over 100 antiquities and 3 mines. He sat below, looking up respectfully at the old man, his eyes shining with pure anticipation. Morgan slowly opened his eyes, shot his son a freezing glance, and demanded why he was rushing. After a tense moment, he explained that the prophecy gave them 3 more months. If their family knew this secret, the other massive families definitely knew it too. Lots of people were making moves lately, but rushing too fast would easily alert the hidden snake. The other major families were staying put. Weren't they also waiting for the absolute final moment? Hearing this, the Morgan family members had a huge epiphany. 3 months was more than enough time to prepare completely. Over in Hanzhong, the head of the Lewis family was frowning as he listened to his team's reports, looking pretty visibly annoyed. He told them to stop panicking. 3 months remained, and old Morgan's crew hadn't even budged yet. He warned them not to act rashly. The managers quickly agreed, though they still felt incredibly anxious. After all, they only had 3 months left. And I know what you're thinking. Yes, all 10 major families were secretly holding these intense meetings. 3 months later, a shady group called Oracle quietly sneaked into these families, pushing them to start their plans. Being a reincarnator, I already knew the great families were going to make their move. In my previous life manipulated by that extremely mysterious faction, they acted early, grabbing endless antiquities and secret realms, totally monopolizing the resources when the spiritual energy awakened. That shady faction was basically just lackeys for a primordial tribe hiding among humanity, slowly leading these great families straight down a terrible path toward total ruin. Luckily, the government stepped in right on time to stop the chaos. But this time around, I am 5 months ahead, holding 6 mines, an SSS-rank secret realm, and 6 legendary Arthur swords that can defeat true kings. I've got 2 volumes of the classic heavenly book plus absolutely countless precious treasures. I'm totally confident I'll charge out like an unstoppable dark horse. You and I are witnessing something epic. Let us jump into this. Just 2 months left until the spiritual energy fully returns, and we got incredible news. Master Oakley and Master Easton finally returned, and they instantly set up a meeting. That evening, these 2 absolute legends in the relic hunting world arrived at my estate. Master Oakley rocked a cool gray robe, casually carrying a legendary longsword. He had 2 pistols at his waist, radiating pure heroic energy. Meanwhile, Master Easton wore a leather jacket and bushy beard, looking totally relaxed and uncaring about his appearance. Since both guys were from the north, I cooked up a delicious lamb hot pot. Arthur, to be completely honest, Master Oakley said between bites, we just came back from America and witnessed some seriously bizarre things happening. People over there are frantically hoarding food, daily items, and basically anything usable. Meanwhile, wealthy merchants are hunting for rare antiques everywhere. But their history is only a few hundred years old, so antiques are super rare. Arthur, could a massive event be about to happen? Hearing his serious question, I simply nodded. I heard a huge event might happen, but I honestly have no idea what it is. When the right time comes, everyone will know, I added. Now pay attention here. King Arthur's tomb was robbed ages ago, and 3 of those legendary bronze swords were already taken. The person who swiped them was actually a famous captain working directly under Chow Chow. Master Oakley calmly finished his crazy story, then directly asked Arthur, why exactly do you want those 6 swords? Master Easton suddenly paused his chopsticks and stared right at me. I just smiled faintly. I simply love collecting rare antiques. The older they are, the better. I read about these 6 legendary swords once, and it completely sparked my interest. That is why this deal happened. Master Easton looked down, suddenly speaking softly. Back in my youth, I saw an ancient magic formation inside a temple made of 6 bronze swords. It looked exactly like those 6 swords. Arthur, are you actually after this specific magical sword formation? I simply laughed out loud. A magical sword formation is basically impossible in our real world. Master Easton totally agreed. That is very true. What happens on September 17th is completely unclear, but magic formations are just myths impossible in our modern world. After that, the 3 of us happily kept chatting about the tomb location and our exciting future plans. Right before they left, I called him back and asked, where exactly is that ancient temple you mentioned? Master Easton glanced right at me, thinking for a moment. It is near White Cloud Temple. Now I know what you are thinking, we should go, but he gave me one strict warning. Just look at that magical formation, but do not take it seriously. With that warning, they said their goodbyes and headed straight for the tomb. I completely trusted their epic skills. Getting those 3 bronze swords back would be super easy for them. Honestly, I was way more interested in exploring that mysterious White Cloud Temple. Back in my past life, a crazy event pulled me into an ancient tomb where I actually saw that exact heavenly sword formation. It looked exactly like what Master Easton described. But time was running out back then, so I could not take notes or even memorize its true location. Looking back, when I met Taoist Master Henderson at South Sun Mountain, he definitely knew these secrets, but just could not share them with me yet. With this in mind, I completely decided to visit White Cloud Temple myself and just test my luck. Because a fully complete heavenly sword formation holds absolutely unimaginable power. Right then, several phone calls totally interrupted my deep thoughts. But when I heard the news, I was instantly overjoyed. The massive construction over in the Grand Valley was basically complete. Victor's Winston City mine was also completely ready, featuring a fresh concrete road connecting straight to the highway, and the whole mine was totally cleaned up. Based on his estimates, the mine could begin transporting ores out by next month. The other mines bought from those 9 major corporations were also nearly finished with their repairs. By October, everything would operate perfectly. Next, using my remaining tens of billions in cash, I immediately called Uncle Gideon and confidently hired 500 people. All were elite veterans deployed at key traffic points across the 5 mines to ensure completely safe ore transportation later on. With everything arranged, I relaxed on the sofa, my heart filled with an indescribable sense of true peace. Trust me on this, those 10 great families could finally sit still no longer. They instantly dispatched their most elite figures to begin searching. Among their absolute top targets were those 6 bronze swords, the abandoned mines, and the legendary Bodhi seed. Stick with me. We are diving into total madness. Because the great families stepped in, everyone started hoarding antiques, sparking a massive nationwide trading frenzy. Prices skyrocketed 10, even 100 times over, bringing pure chaotic energy. Up in the insanely luxurious top-floor office of the Empire Building, Stephen rubbed his tired forehead, reviewing his subordinates' reports with a bitter smile. He whispered, "Brother Arthur, you are genuinely one step ahead of everyone." He quickly ordered all his massive connections to start buying up antiques. The older the better, paying absolutely any price just to keep them away from those greedy great families. Meanwhile, over on the eastern extreme island at White Cloud Temple, I sat drinking premium tea with Taoist Master Henderson and his disciples. After 10 grueling days of searching, combining my past life's scattered memories, I had finally tracked down the exact hidden location of the White Cloud Temple. Honestly, the vast eastern extreme sea is filled with completely scattered islands looking exactly like starry night skies. Without major preparation, finding White Cloud Temple is nearly impossible. I showed up fully prepared this time, bringing plenty of food and awesome gifts. Taoist Master Henderson lived an incredibly simple life, but he warmly accepted my offerings. I handed them over, and he brewed top-tier tea for me. "Mr. Arthur, finding White Cloud Temple proves you share a deep destiny with us." Henderson smiled. His hair was completely white, yet he looked way younger than at South Sun Mountain, literally resembling a youthful, vibrant, white-haired sage. "You and I both know why the coming spiritual energy revival was definitely boosting High Masters. Back in my previous life, I never really interacted with him, only knowing him briefly. But this time, despite just one meeting, Henderson radiated an incredibly profound and unfathomable aura. After thinking for a quick second, I decided to be direct. Honestly, I came here today chasing clues about a newly discovered ancient Taoist ruin. Hidden inside that tomb is a mysterious formation of 6 bronze swords holding absolutely unmatched power. My intel says this ruin sits right near White Cloud Temple, so I came hoping to ask for the legendary Taoist master's expert guidance." Henderson's expression suddenly shifted, his warm smile vanishing completely as he stared right at me. After a heavy pause, he spoke seriously. "The grand tribulation approaches. You seem fully prepared. This poor Taoist will break his rules just this once. That ancient tomb ruin sits exactly 30 miles north of White Cloud Temple. I will personally draw a detailed map for your journey." Absolutely thrilled, I respectfully clasped my hands. "Thank you." Right there at White Cloud Temple, Henderson mapped the ruin's exact location, folded the paper perfectly, and handed it over with a deeply cryptic warning. "You have located the Grand Formation. You must shoulder this heavy destiny. Whatever happens next, never ever forget your true heart." Hearing those exact words, I jolted, instantly remembering a very similar warning from Elder Master Fabian at Dragoncliff. "I will follow your wise words," I replied. Grabbing the new map, I dashed off. To speed things up, I called Hugh, ordering his most trusted men to track down this ancient tomb ruin with me using the new map. Since Hugh and his elite crew were rugged wilderness veterans, they used the map to find the hidden ruin entrance in absolute record time. Stepping into the tomb, I tapped into my past life memories, hunting for the specific wall bearing the formation. I quickly spotted my absolute perfect target. I ordered the elite crew to snap photos from every single angle and save the diagrams to their phones, finally breathing a massive sigh of relief. You are about to witness greatness. With this complete heavenly sword formation, I will be absolutely invincible. Right at that moment, Simon's crew finally made their move. Master Oakley and Master Easton successfully secured the last 3 bronze swords and planned to visit Trenton tomorrow to hand them right over to me. Feeling totally hyped, I immediately jumped onto a fast helicopter back to Trenton. With literally only 20 days remaining until spiritual energy revives, I finally collected every single treasure from my memories, securely moving them all into my future base, Grand Valley. Staring at Grand Valley, fully upgraded over 6 months, I still felt nervous. In my past life, I saw how ridiculously unhinged those great families became for ultimate power. They crossed every line for their goals, battling relentlessly until their absolute bitter end. So I hired 800 extra elite soldiers, assigning them to heavily guard Grand Valley's critical spots. I even mortgaged my villa to construct temporary valley housing, keeping everything strictly under my total control. Mr. Arthur, per your direct orders, 360 high-tech alarms surround the Grand Valley. 500 elite mercenaries stand ready. Plus, the city security squad can deploy 1,000 fully armed backup troops to assist within exactly 10 minutes. Simon stood nearby, reporting the defenses. Trust me, we know that defense isn't enough. Call Uncle Gideon right now. Stick with me. You and I are watching the ultimate setup unfold as he moved those highway guards straight to the Grand Valley for backup. As long as he holds out until the spiritual energy fully awakes, neither the giant families nor the ancient ferocious beasts will be a real problem. In this timeline, he put all his absolute energy into the perfect master plan. Based on the treasure types, he planned way ahead. 6 bronze swords were placed around the valley to match the heavenly sword formation from the ancient ruins, perfectly aligning with the 5 elemental forces. He kept the Bodhi seed close. The ancient lightning wood and Elder Master Fabian's dragonstone sat perfectly together. They could go into the secret realm's furnace to forge absolutely top-tier divine weapons. The meteorite ancient jade, over 10,000 rare elixirs and antiques from the 9 megacorporations, stuffed the massive valley, leaving absolutely zero empty space. Furthermore, he dug a huge cellar halfway up the mountain, adding a thick alloy roof and heavy frame doors for storing spirit stones. Everything perfectly ready. He moved straight to the Grand Valley to get used to the weather. Time flew fast. Today was the nation's big national day. The entire country was on holiday, and tourist spots were totally packed full of people. At a northeast zoo, a friendly guide was showing off the Siberian tigers to crowds. The Siberian tiger is the biggest cat, loves eating meat, and gets a little fierce sometimes. Kids, please step back just a bit. Right then, a little girl pointed at a massive tiger and yelled out loudly, "How is it standing up? She is so funny." The guide laughed, giving the little girl a super warm smile. But she said, "Auntie, it is totally real. Now watch closely, because you and I are about to see this peaceful crowd panic." Sure enough, the normal tiger she knew suddenly puffed up, lifted its huge head, let out a massive roar, and stood straight up. In just 1 minute, it completely bent the iron cage. Terrifying shouts echoed across the entire zoo. At the exact same time, out southwest, the open sky was perfectly clear. Then thunder boomed, dropping countless giant ice blocks everywhere. At a Riverdale park, dark clouds formed and a massive tornado brought instant, absolute ruin. From the 9 provinces to the seas, wild natural disasters struck. A worldwide crisis quickly arrived. Humanity faced terrible challenges, totally unaware this was just the very first beginning phase. In Riverdale, Morgan stood by the window watching busy rescue teams and the totally helpless crowd down below, a super cold smile crossing his old face. Natural disasters are the perfect test for true elites. The weak just hide away until they completely vanish. The strong prepare early, grab the chance to step up and hoard all the resources. Our Morgan family will reach the very top, showing everyone the true power of the oldest family. Behind him, all his family members cheered loudly. Despite his age, Morgan absolutely loved the high praise. Our leader has returned. Even without the final results, Morgan felt totally sure their grand operations would go off without a single hitch. But when guys in black suits ran in and dropped to their knees, the proud smile on Morgan's face instantly completely vanished away. A heavy feeling of terrible ruin hit him hard. He frowned and yelled, "What happened?" A huge guy quickly answered, "Boss, we hired the absolute best tomb raiders to find King Arthur's ancient resting place. We went deep inside to look, but realized the bronze swords were already magically snatched by someone else. You saw that coming, right?" Morgan's face totally twisted in pure fury. "What? Gone? How is that even possible? I plotted this for 10 years, spending millions just to grab those swords when the big disaster hit. Now you tell me they vanished." Furious roaring echoed everywhere. Morgan turned totally pale. Everyone in the room shook with fear, keeping their heads down, absolutely terrified. "Useless fools, you are all terrible trash," Morgan screamed. "Investigate right now. Find out who took them. Use every resource to grab them back. I want that person completely destroyed." The panicked man quickly answered, Boss. Through digging around everywhere, we locked onto our main suspect, Arthur, the former boss of the famous North Star Group. Morgan frowned deeply. Arthur, the guy who went crazy buying antiques, called the biggest rich kid around by the media, he realized very well. So he played us completely. The news kept hyping his silly rich prodigal boy image. A total fake out, trust me. You and I absolutely need to see what he does next, Morgan shouted to immediately send backup. Do whatever it takes. Bring those bronze swords back to me immediately. But stick with me here, a panicked guy just reported that Arthur completely snatched up those 2 abandoned mines. Those jade pendants and withered elixirs, he snatched them right from the Empire Group. Even that rare body seed is sitting directly in Arthur's hands. Hearing his subordinate say this, Morgan's face actually turns green. He literally takes a deep breath, totally failing to contain his massive anger. You absolute fools, getting played like a fiddle by some random brat just running in circles. What do we even do now? A serious middle-aged guy bows his head and quickly explains the situation. Boss, our spies say Arthur hired at least a few thousand veterans and packed some seriously heavy weapons. If we rush in blindly, I am afraid we absolutely won't gain a single advantage. Morgan starts pacing back and forth, seriously trying to weigh his options. Everyone else holds their breath, totally terrified to speak. 5 minutes later, Morgan sweeps his dark gaze over the entire room, speaking very coldly. Call the other 9 great families right now. Tell them every single thing we targeted was snatched up by Arthur. The Morgan family will take massive action to reclaim what is ours, and those other families, they already know exactly what they need to do. Around that exact same time, the nation's other 9 great families start receiving very similar and highly urgent reports, just like the Morgan crew. All their long-term plans were completely ruined by Arthur. Following a huge afternoon meeting, all 10 great families quickly agree on a solid plan. Watch closely, they team up, demand those treasures back, and claim the mines. They eagerly split the rewards based on status, so representatives from those 10 massive families shoot me a direct message angrily demanding I return everything, or else they threaten to unleash heavy force at the Grand Valley. Back in the Grand Valley, I finish reading that ridiculous letter from the 10 families, tear it to absolute shreds, and immediately take action. Alert all units, enter Stage 1 combat readiness. I order loudly. If they actually come fight them, I will gladly handle the consequences. My assistant relays the order, his eyes flashing with total excitement. The ultimate absolute chaos is finally arriving right here. I seriously have nothing to fear. I think to myself, if these arrogant families dare to approach, I will show them absolutely zero mercy. Until the spiritual energy truly revives, they are completely harmless. The assistant leaves the valley to aggressively broadcast my orders everywhere. Once they find out I tore up their letter, the 10 great families immediately decide to march in with full force. They furiously want to capture the Grand Valley, take back absolutely everything, gather it together, and quickly divide up those remaining 5 mines. They instantly send out armies to seize control, using totally overwhelming power to forcefully make everyone obediently hand everything over. Morgan, the leader, declares the official military really does not have the time to bother with us. This is a literal once-in-a-lifetime chance. If we miss it, we will sink into a terrible pit of endless defeat. The other great families instantly agree to act. All 10 massive families gather their entire forces, aggressively marching directly toward the Grand Valley. You know what happens next. As thousands swarm the nearby city, I instantly get the thrilling news. I gather all my prearranged forces, concentrating over 1,000 heavily armed people directly at the Grand Valley, totally ready for an epic battle. Standing tall atop the Grand Valley, I look down through my binoculars, watching the 10 families' massive convoy aggressively speeding down the highway while their loud engines roar. Their flashy convoy parks on an empty lot by the mountain base. Thousands of fighters quickly assemble their shiny weapons, getting totally ready to attack. I calmly raise my right hand. The mountain defense forces instantly load their weapons, aiming directly at the enemy positions down at the mountain's foot. With just one single command, millions of bullets would rain down. Thanks to this perfect high ground, I hold absolute dominance. After setting their formation, Morgan, guarded by several huge bodyguards, marches to the mountain base, gripping a massive megaphone and shouts loudly, "Arthur, I actually respect your father, Arthur Sr. Now I am giving you 10 minutes to think, hand everything over, and we will instantly withdraw everyone. I swear I will not make things difficult for you. But if you resist, our 10 families will completely level this place, bringing absolute ruin to the Grand Valley." His loud voice echoes everywhere. Over 2,000 people clearly hear every single word. All eyes turn straight to me, eagerly waiting for an answer. After all, the enemy is the top 10 great families of the nation, the absolute strongest non-government force right outside the official authorities. They literally control over half the nation's entire resources. I calmly snatch the megaphone from my assistant, staring right down at the 10 great families' massive army gathered at the foot of the mountain. With an incredibly cold and decisive voice, I spit out my warning. Take one more step and I will destroy you. The entire scene falls perfectly silent. Trust me, we will never forget this. Everyone widens their eyes in disbelief at the young man. Stick with me to witness an epic story of 10 families. Even during their ultimate golden era, absolutely nobody ever dared to speak to these powerful elites like this. They practically hoarded half the nation's wealth. But now a cheerful 20-something kid boldly warned them, take one more step and you will be utterly destroyed. Morgan looked completely furious, his fierce glare piercing the heavens with pure hostility. He exchanged a quick look with the other proud leaders, nodded, and boldly ordered them to march forward. He firmly doubted that Arthur would actually fight the 10 families. Following his strict command, the massive troops below readied their heavy weapons, marching step by step straight toward our beautiful valley. Watching them approach, I happily smirked and ordered fire. In my past life, these 10 elite families surrendered to the primordial tribe, betraying our people just to prove their total, unquestioning loyalty to the one true king. But in this lifetime, I absolutely refuse to let them win. On my mark, our elite troops blasted away. Heavy projectiles rained down like meteorites, striking the family's front lines and kicking up a massive cloud of dust. That epic strike was merely a warning. The terrified crowd immediately froze in their tracks. Now watch this. Morgan and those mighty leaders were totally stunned that I fired, instantly trapping them all in a completely helpless panic. If they kept attacking, total chaos would erupt, completely destroying their hard-earned and incredibly glorious reputation. Right then, Morgan's phone suddenly rang out. Answering the call, he heard a terribly panicked, shaking voice on the line. Boss Arthur's incredibly strong forces completely surrounded our mining teams. They brought massive heavy weapons to the field. We cannot possibly escape this wild trap. What should we do? Morgan took a deep breath, angrily yelling, "You ask me? Who is exactly fighting who here today? How should I know what to do?" He hung up, looked at the perfectly stunned crowd around him, and finally sighed with pure defeat. Just retreat. We wait until the epic Great Tribulation hits. We will surely return and our fantastic power will be completely different by then. The once aggressive mob totally panicked and fled. I calmly watched this dramatic scene, happily laughing inside. Once those 10 mighty families finally left the Grand Valley, I quickly issued fresh orders regarding their trapped troops stuck at the mines. Disarm them all. Detain everyone regardless of their rank. Let nobody escape tonight. So the mighty 10 families totally failed today, while also losing hundreds of their top men across all 5 major mining sites. Over the following days, both I and those families waited patiently, eagerly, anticipating the exact moment when spiritual energy finally awakened. On the awesome night of October 20th, right as the clock struck midnight, I sat quietly in the Grand Valley. As requested, none of my loyal North Star members slept. Everyone waited patiently. Suddenly, a massive thunderclap loudly echoed from the distant horizon. Blinding white lightning ripped through the dark night sky. Fierce winds howled and heavy rain poured like an epic waterfall. Epic, terrifying beast roars shook the deep mountains and forests. A truly magical, dense aura completely flooded the Grand Valley. Glowing purple clouds surged, totally covering the entire valley. A wonderful, familiar energy rushed into my limbs. I opened my eyes, absorbing this amazing feeling. You and I both love this part. After 8 long months of planning, my absolute ultimate golden moment had finally arrived. The global spiritual energy revival was here. Simultaneously, my prearranged treasures frantically began to absorb that incredibly dense magical power. First was the withered body seed bracelet, which crazily absorbed the surrounding energy, brightly emitting an absolutely blinding epic light. The pitch-black outer shell magically peeled off, revealing a dazzling, beautiful golden color. Guided by a miraculous power, the shiny bracelet slowly levitated, floating directly toward me. I gladly let the glowing bracelet enter my forehead. Body recognizes its worthy master. Epic fusion progress 1%. That unexpected cool voice rang inside my head, making me completely wild with pure joy. This bracelet was an ancient tomb treasure that actually developed real living sentience. When fully fused, it brings absolutely unimaginable, incredible benefits. I sat down, closing my eyes to deeply feel the amazing physical changes. Body fusion complete. Progress 100%. Currently at the sprout stage. Comprehension successfully increased by 10,000 times. As the sound echoed again, I slowly opened my eyes, keeping my heart perfectly calm. I clearly felt a Bodhi sprout in my head, crazily absorbing the spiritual energy. In my past life, it took 15 tough years to break through into the early stage of the amazing divine treasury realm. In this life, with the Bodhi seed multiplying my comprehension by 10,000 times, leveling up will be insane. From my past life, the system ranks lowest to highest like this. Body tempering, vein forming, and divine treasury. Heavenly origin, ascending heaven. Plucking heaven, then immortal ruler. But until the terrible day I was finally defeated by that ferocious beast, our nation's highest realm was only heavenly origin. Trust me, we are watching greatness happen. With my thorough preparation, I will easily surpass the divine treasury. After totally absorbing this amazing Bodhi seed, my body radiated golden light clashing with purple energy to create something totally wild. Let's jump right in. Right now, those huge prepared families are awake just like me, totally soaking up this fresh power. Morgan sat with his eyes closed inside a room surrounded by dozens of old dry herbs waiting. Soaked in this new power wave, they leaked a heavy aura. Morgan did not even hesitate. He grabbed 7 or 8 herbs, shoving them right into his mouth. A huge rush of crazy energy flooded his system. His arm muscles swelled up instantly, and those face wrinkles vanished. He looked at least 20 years younger in a flash, practically bursting with absolute peak energy. Opening his eyes, he exhaled deeply, grinning with pure, total confidence. I am finally entering the body tempering tier. Inside, he was thrilled, but his face just showed pure, nasty arrogance and total disgust. Arthur, you get a few more days. Once I clear this body tempering tier, I am absolutely going to crush you to total dust. The moment this huge energy wave woke up, now watch this part closely. The 10 major families started their schemes, throwing all their cash into leveling up their top prodigies. Within 1 hour, those geniuses hit the first stage of the body tempering tier, completely losing their minds. Regular folks with zero cash just felt a tiny strength boost. Nothing really major happening at all. Down in the Grand Valley, I was not rushing to level up. I just watched all these crazy changes the fresh new energy brought. The Hidden Valley zone was still a bit closed off, but the energy inside felt way heavier than outside. Those 6 bronze swords were still staying pretty quiet, though. Maybe the Sky Sword formation and a special key are needed. The body seed was totally absorbed, boosting my learning speed by 10,000 times. That pair of ancient jade pendants changed now, peeing some seriously heavy energy. Just holding them fed my energy lines directly. That 1,000-year-old lightning wood was barely waking up. It probably needs a minute. That meteorite looked exactly the same, still totally pitch black. But the wildest upgrade was those 10,000 dry pills I got from Steven. Drinking in that energy, their crusts broke off, pushing out this amazing scent. Seeing these upgrades, I went straight to work. I grabbed a huge handful and threw them in my mouth. Gripping those jade pendants tightly, I pulled out my starting manual for the body tempering tier and finally got to work on my own. Can you believe this? Chewing those pills sent wild energy flooding my system. It felt exactly like chugging freezing melon juice on a burning summer day, totally chilling my heart and liver. Then came the numbing burn. It totally felt like a tiny blade was just endlessly scraping my bones, making this nasty, grinding noise along with a deeply intense, endless ache. My muscles basically ripped apart and stitched right back together. Every single reset made my skin completely tougher. Deep inside, my energy lines took massive hits from the flow, bringing crazy, intense pain. This whole body tempering tier is all about using techniques to pull energy, constantly strengthening your muscles and bones, basically breaking yourself down to hold even more of that raw power. If you can handle this crazy rebuild process, you just safely level right up. But tap out or quit halfway. You stay stuck in this tier forever, or maybe even drop a few levels down. This body tempering tier has 9 levels, each one demanding insanely high pain tolerance. You have to push through all 9 times to hit the next stage, the vein forming tier. Based on what I learned in my past life, taking more damage during this tempering phase gives you an absolutely massive physical upgrade in the end. In this body tempering tier phase, your raw power can jump hundreds of times over and physical limits decide your future potential. After this big energy return, the early game totally shifted into a completely heavy martial arts battleground. About 3 minutes later, riding out wave after wave of intense energy crashes and perfectly following every single move from the manual, I easily smashed right into the second stage of the body tempering tier. I opened my eyes and exhaled, feeling my entire frame absolutely bursting with wild power. I squeezed my fist and tossed a light jab at a valley wall. Boom! The stone shattered to dust, actually shaking the whole ground. I was totally shocked. Just hitting stage 1 of the body tempering tier and barely using any effort, I was already packing this insanely terrifying level of strength. Back in my past life, hitting stage 3 of this tier was not even close. You see that fierce look in my eyes? Watch this with me. I just kept shoving elixirs in my mouth. The medicine dissolved, and spiritual energy absorption skyrocketed off the charts, kicking off another intense round of tempering my bones, tendons, and flesh. 3 minutes later, I hit the second stage of the body tempering realm. My physical strength multiplied by more than 10 times. Right then, I felt absolutely confident I could punch out a tiger with one blow. Pushing completely past the pain, my eyes burned with pure obsession. Doing this over and over, my back was totally soaked in sweat, hair completely plastered to my head. A super thick, nasty layer of impurities completely covered my entire body's surface. Finally, I broke through to the 9th stage of the body tempering realm. My eyes snapped open, flashing a brilliant golden light, absolute proof I had mastered the innate body tempering art. Raw strength exploded through my veins like an endless river. Honestly, I was absolutely blown away. Back in my past life, it took 3 long years to hit the 9th stage of body tempering. Now I just pulled it off in 30 minutes. From what I remember, even the top-tier geniuses from huge families took 3 entire days, blowing through insane amounts of rare resources to succeed. If people saw my leveling speed, they would absolutely pink. Taking a quick second, I grabbed more elixirs. I was fully determined to blast into the vein-forming realm, boosting my success rate and making sure my spiritual energy never stopped flowing. Without hesitating, I shoved 10 more elixirs right into my mouth. Now watch closely. I looked totally crazed. You and I know ferocious beasts are coming fast, and leveling up quickly was my only survival plan. I shut my eyes as blinding pain struck again. I just gritted my teeth and endured. Suddenly, a massive explosion echoed inside me. Insane amounts of spiritual energy completely flooded my 8 extraordinary meridians. Opening my eyes, I was absolutely thrilled. Huge success, I blasted from peak body tempering straight into the vein-forming realm, finally unlocking the insanely rare innate martial god physique. My foundational bone strength multiplied by 10,000 times. Hearing that system sound in my head, I felt super hyped, but also totally confused. A martial god physique. I never heard of this in my past life. Not even the absolute top prodigies from ancient elite families ever pulled this off. Hitting the vein-forming realm wasn't enough. I pulled out a new manual, the Joyous Vein Scripture, and immediately kept cultivating with that exact same insane method. This round took a full hour of fighting through wave after wave of pain. As the Bronze Age jade pendants in my hands totally shattered, I officially hit the 9th stage of the vein-forming realm. Unlike basic body tempering, the vein-forming realm triggered some seriously crazy physical upgrades. The aura raging inside me felt hundreds of times stronger than before. My meridians expanded so much, holding insane amounts of pure raw power. I slowly stood up, lifting my right-hand palm, facing right up. Insane spiritual energy instantly gathered at my command, turning into a glowing crescent shape with a sharp hum. With just one casual wave, a massive earth-shattering blast erupted. The whole valley violently shook. Crushed rocks fell everywhere, creating an absolutely massive scene. "Mr. Arthur, are you okay?" My assistant's panicked voice echoed from right outside the door. I coughed, quickly yelling back, "I am totally fine." Deep down, I realized I really needed to be way more careful next time. Let that sink in for a second. This vein-forming realm power was hundreds of times more terrifying. Hitting the vein-forming realm, I finally decided to hit pause. Reaching the divine treasury tier wasn't simple. I desperately needed that specific cultivation technique, plus a totally insane mountain of spirit stones. These standard elixirs were basically useless to me now. Even devouring 10,000 of them wouldn't change anything anymore. With that thought, I confidently strolled out of the valley. Simon, Uncle Gideon, Hugh, and everyone were waiting respectfully outside. Wait, why aren't you guys cultivating? I looked around, realizing they skipped training completely just to stand guard right outside the valley. Keeping you safe is our absolute top priority, sir. Hugh fired back without any hesitation. Even with spiritual energy making his cells boil with excitement, he stayed to protect me. Honestly, my heart felt incredibly warm right then. These guys were truly trustworthy, loyal to the very end in my past life, and still the same now. Smiling, I pulled out a handful of elixirs and passed them over. Hurry up and train reach whatever tier you can manage. Don't waste these elixirs. Eat every single one. Hugh and the crew stared at me, hearts completely overwhelmed with pure emotion. Even old Uncle Gideon couldn't hide his massive smile. Without a word, they grabbed the elixirs, threw them back, and quickly found spots to sit down and start cultivating their energy. I even tossed out a few extra body tempering manuals to totally supercharge their entire cultivation process. Simon, hold off cultivating. Call those mines. Yes, sir. You and I are going to love what's next. Simon instantly paused his training, stepping aside to make those urgent calls. Meanwhile, I stood halfway up the majestic mountain, simply admiring the mysterious night sky above. Stick with me tonight is exactly when the real massive chaos finally begins. About 15 minutes later, Simon rushed back, confirming he had spoken with the mining teams. They absolutely felt those intense natural disasters and the massive spiritual energy surge. Some folks had already started cultivating this new energy, though the mines remained basically unchanged. I nodded thoughtfully. Clearly, those precious spirit stones just needed more time to materialize. Drawing perfectly from my past lives. During the very first energy wave, those super-prepared great families jumped ahead, followed closely by eager collectors, wealthy tycoons, and lastly all the everyday common people. But on day 2 of this awesome energy revival, right after those wild anomalies and disasters, a massive wave of pure chaos hit. In just 24 hours, tens of thousands of body-tempering realm fighters flooded the bustling streets, eager to wildly settle their old personal scores. Now pay close attention here. These frustrated guys acted like wild horses, causing total mayhem. To handle this, the national government quickly formed a new squad. Deep inside a secure Capitol conference room, a highly energetic, silver-haired senior in a crisp green uniform proudly announced the official launch of an elite cultivator alliance called Dragon Ascendant, designed to keep these wild fighters grounded. This awesome guy was actually General Harrison, the legendary retired commander and the respected director of national security. He passionately declared they would immediately recruit tons of tough cultivators at the 3rd body tempering stage or higher, but their absolute most important requirement was having an amazing moral compass. As long as they possessed a golden heart, the Alliance would eagerly recruit them all, brilliantly putting the safety of everyday people absolutely first. General Harrison swept his intense gaze across the room and everyone eagerly agreed. In just one day after this epic energy revived, hundreds of dangerous attacks happened. The entire national police force was totally deployed to capture those reckless criminals. Meanwhile, according to the absolute latest official reports, large numbers of incredibly fierce, magically mutated beasts started appearing across many lush, mountainous, and heavily forested areas. But honestly, whenever one specific place faces tough times, help always arrives from everywhere. Once Dragon Ascendant officially launched, countless highly ambitious heroes joyfully joined to protect their country. Within just 5 days, the Security Bureau brilliantly set up 8 major regional branches, successfully recruiting 300 elite martial artists at the 3rd body tempering stage, or even higher. Right after launching, they immediately jumped into action, catching bad guys, shutting down troublemakers with thunderous power, and happily helping everywhere. Exactly 1 week later, the completely wild situation across the nation was basically handled. This fantastic news spread globally, but surprisingly, those Western countries that heavily prioritized absolute freedom completely tumbled into total unrestrained chaos. Reckless villains appeared everywhere on their streets, actively cheering the ordinary public to riot. Their busy governments dispatched the military to stop them, yet simply could not end the attacks. Then 7 days later, Victor sent some phenomenal news. That abandoned Winston City mine had beautifully mutated after absorbing massive spiritual energy. Glowing, irregularly shaped purple stones magically began appearing. Sitting comfortably on my sofa, hearing this amazing report, my eyes truly sparkled. You and I both know how massive this is. These exact spirit stones totally guaranteed my power would absolutely surpass those arrogant families by a massive realm. However, I already cleverly knew those greedy great families were definitely targeting these precious stones too. From my super-accurate past life memories, that abandoned Winston City mine was unquestionably the largest, most legendary spirit stone location anywhere. Back then, when the Morgan family cruelly grabbed it, their cultivation speed easily outpaced literally everyone. When the scary primordial tribe eventually descended, they pathetically led families to surrender, fully betraying the government and causing deeply heartbreaking losses. But in this vibrant new life, with these stones secured, I refused to let those snobby families grab even a single shiny piece. Following my brilliant plan, brave Uncle Gideon quickly led an armed squad toward Winston City to officially take control. To guarantee total safety, I mobilized a massive 1,000-man team completely armed with top-tier gear, cheerfully ordering them to swiftly take down any ambitious robbers. Give exactly 0 chances. Thanks to my epic magical elixirs and special manuals, Uncle Gideon and the team wildly advanced wonderfully, hitting the 8th body tempering stage, making them perfectly strong enough to easily protect an entire region. Unsurprisingly, during transport, the Morgan family foolishly tried blocking Uncle Gideon's convoy. But Gideon didn't waste any time chatting. He spectacularly blasted an arrogant Morgan family youth entirely away using just one punch. Combined with their massive firepower, the Morgan family, who originally thought this would be super easy, instantly crumbled in total panic and hilariously ran away. So what do you and I take from this? Those families stayed completely silent, utterly terrified. Stick with me here, because even the mighty Morgan family failed and entirely lacked confidence to win. 5 days later, Uncle Gideon returned with 5 massive trucks stuffed full of purple spirit stones. Honestly, I was completely surprised by this. Even knowing there would be plenty, I never expected a haul this massive. In my past life, I had used spirit stones before, but the amounts were always incredibly small. I immediately ordered Uncle Gideon to stash all 5 trucks of spirit stones inside the secret chamber. Staring at a glowing room packed with spirit stones, I nodded happily. I am going into intense, secluded training for a while, so Uncle Gideon will handle all of the mining business. Simon, keep an eye on the major families. Everyone else train hard and do not slack off. Wrapping things up, I took every leftover elixir and tossed them to Uncle Gideon and Simon to distribute. They were pretty useless to me now, but to them, these items were an absolute miracle. Getting those elixirs made the core team work even harder. Their intense gratitude and loyalty spiked incredibly. With the spirit stones completely prepped, I locked myself away to train. At this very moment, I had reached the 9th vein-forming stage. All 8 of my extraordinary meridians were totally clear, pulling pure energy straight into my body from the surrounding heavens and earth. Now watch closely. The next tier was the Divine Treasury, a legendary realm that took 15 long years last time. The Divine Treasury realm, after upgrading muscles, bones, and flesh and perfecting the meridian network, is all about enhancing your internal organs to finally unlock the incredible hidden powers inside. Shutting my eyes, I sat directly in the massive pile of spirit stones, following the Divine Treasury manual perfectly. Thick purple spiritual energy slowly drifted inside, filling my whole body. Inside my mind, the Bodhi sprout practically drank up the energy like rain after a drought, exploding into a small tree nearly 3 meters tall. Then a system voice suddenly rang out. Massive spiritual energy absorbed. The Bodhi tree evolved straight into the epic growth stage. Comprehension boosted 100,000 times over. I threw my meridians wide open, aggressively draining energy from every surrounding stone. You could literally watch the stones rapidly lose their bright glow, crumbling down into totally useless, ordinary gray rocks. In just a single second, chaotic energy tore wildly through my body. My inner organs twisted like they were being crushed. This intense agony completely eclipsed anything from the vein-forming stage. I honestly lost track of time until my mind suddenly felt totally clear. My senses multiplied insanely, letting me literally hear heartbeats outside the valley. But then a sharp, terrifying chest pain. Waves of intense energy crashed inwards, feeling like 10,000 needles violently stabbing my heart. It was absolutely agonizing. Boom! An earth-shattering explosion blasted through the Grand Valley. A massive purple light pierced the sky, making the dark night look like daytime. Every single spirit stone around me was totally sucked dry, instantly crumbling away into worthless dust. You feel it too. That familiar breakthrough rush hit me again perfectly. My eyes snapped open, blazing with golden light. A booming heartbeat echoed out loud, showing off a completely absurd level of raw colossal power. Last time around, I spent 15 grueling years trying to hit the divine treasury realm, but today I nailed it in just a few short days. Plus, with an endless stash of spirit stones, I could just keep leveling up without stopping. My eyes flared with pure confidence. I finally knew that in this timeline I would absolutely crush every genius and major family. The whole power-up took barely 30 minutes, but it triggered an absolute earthquake. Meanwhile, at White Cloud Temple, Taoist Master Henderson froze under the dark night sky, staring blankly at the massive purple pillar lighting up the Grand Valley, looking completely and utterly shocked. Who could possibly hit the divine treasury realm in a matter of days and trigger such a ridiculously terrifying light show in the sky? This person possesses a truly godlike talent. Meanwhile, way out in the wastelands, past the Great Wall, an old guy in gray robes snapped his eyes open, looking absolutely stunned. He squinted at that massive purple beacon blazing above the Grand Valley, whispering softly, hitting the divine treasury realm so incredibly fast. Just who on earth is this mysterious guy? Is it simply the mighty reincarnation of some ancient legendary monster? Number 8. The old man yelled, making the entire barren wasteland violently shake. A shadowy guy, totally wrapped in black clothing, stepped up. Yes, Elder. Go down there and figure out exactly who created that huge purple light. Number 8 just nodded. But right before he left, the old man stared intensely into his eyes, giving him a very serious warning. Do not act too flashy outside. So what do you and I make of this? Even as a vein-forming expert, his mission is strictly just to gather information, nothing else. Stick with me, number 8 is trembling in pure shock. After years of grinding and hoarding massive resources, he just reached the vein-forming realm's first stage. But get this, someone else already hit the legendary divine treasury realm. Dropping his arrogance, instantly cold sweat poured down his face as he bowed and said yes. In a flash, he vanished. Meanwhile, my epic breakthrough caused a massive scene, instantly grabbing the attention of multiple factions. The nation's top official organization, the 10 Great Families, the mysterious Extreme North faction, and the legendary White Cloud Temple. Dragon Ascendant's Deputy Director Carter, a brilliant young martial artist at the 9th stage of the body tempering realm, stood silently outside the conference room with his arms crossed. He just stared at that brilliant pillar of light shooting into the sky. Director Harrison looked up and firmly patted Carter's shoulder. Once we finish up here, you need to investigate that light. If it's a powerful human, you must recruit them into Dragon Ascendant, no matter what the cost. A quick hint of hesitation crossed Carter's face, but he instantly smiled. Don't worry at all, Director Harrison. If they are a cultivator, I will bring them into Dragon Ascendant. Honestly, Harrison completely understood Carter. Carter had insane talent, but was super arrogant, literally considering himself the absolute top powerhouse in the nation. By sending him down the mountain, Harrison totally wanted to teach him a harsh lesson. There is always someone stronger out there. If successful, he could recruit an epic powerhouse to massively boost Dragon Ascendant's strength. But even though Carter nodded, he secretly thought, if I actually meet this so-called powerhouse, I will totally show him who the real genius is. Meanwhile, I just stared at the giant hole at the top of the valley, feeling completely helpless about this situation. To test my explosive new power after breaking through, I immediately headed straight to the valley's north peak. Staring at the razor-sharp cliff standing before me, I took a massive deep breath, raised my right fist high, and threw a full power punch. Boom! A heaven-shaking explosion instantly echoed everywhere. The cliff shattered, rocks blasted everywhere, and the mountain quaked. Several minutes later, the chaotic noise finally completely stopped. The North Peak cliff was totally gone. The peak above collapsed. Right then, a massive explosion echoed loudly through the Grand Valley. Startled, I completely spun around, feeling like I just entered a magical space. Insane spiritual energy poured out everywhere. I rushed back to the valley and witnessed an absolutely mind-blowing scene. The gourd-shaped valley began transforming as its surrounding cliffs completely collapsed, crumbling down into nothing but pure dust and gravel. The valley fully collapsed, completely changing its shape forever. I was absolutely ecstatic. Watch closely. Are you and I witnessing the legendary double S-rank secret realm opening right now? After collapsing, the fragmented rocks literally vanished before my eyes amidst roaring explosions. Suddenly, massive walls sprouted right out of the ground, completely reshaping the entire valley. I carefully checked the walls. They were perfectly arranged in a bagua formation. Exactly 8 walls each, 5 to 6 meters high, tightly enclosed the entire valley without leaving a single gap anywhere. Suddenly, the ground beneath my feet tore open and violently caved in, revealing a terrifying, bottomless pit that quickly swallowed up all the surface rubble. Wait. Panic mode. I suddenly realized my treasures on the ground had fallen straight into that black pit along with the dirt, but diving down to save them was impossible. While panicking, I suddenly felt an insanely scorching aura rising up from the absolute depths. Looking down, I saw scorching lava erupting from the Earth's core, bubbling wildly, just like boiling water. Instantly, it formed a massive sea of lava with absolute terrifying temperatures capable of melting almost anything it touched. Then I was totally shocked. My swallowed treasures were floating right back up to the bubbling lava's surface. I know what you're thinking. Looking at that lava, a wild idea just popped into our hero's head. I finally realized this is the secret realm's Earth Core Crimson Flame Sea, the ultimate place where divine artifacts can actually be forged. The epic treasures I dreamed of day and night can finally be forged. The lava violently surged but then completely stopped after a few minutes, rapidly starting to cool down. The scorching heat completely vanished. Standing on the solidified lava, I was super confused. Was it always like this, only activating whenever epic forging was actually needed? Wanting to verify this, I decided to test it, but suddenly the 6 bronze swords plunged straight into the lava furnace's center and exploded with brilliant, blinding light. The 5 swords in other positions also flashed brilliantly. Resonating with the 6 bronze swords, they vibrated fiercely, emitting loud sounds of clashing metal. Horrified, I totally thought the heavenly sword formation was manifesting. But after one wild vibration, everything just went completely dead silent again. But wait, we're not done yet. The crimson lava flows again. That floating meteorite cracks its black shell open, and trust me, you'll want to see this, as it absorbed massive spiritual energy. Let's dive in. The core revealed a snow-white glow radiating a terrifyingly freezing aura. Even at the divine treasury tier, my entire body still throbbed with an intense piercing pain. Totally stunned, I pushed my spiritual energy to clear that icy aura, forcing myself through the intense pain to grab the meteorite and check it out. Once the outer shell peeled away completely, the meteorite looked crystal clear and sparkling, definitely packing some serious yin-cold energy inside. Without hesitation, I chucked the meteorite into the lava. A sharp hiss echoed like evaporating steam. The bubbling lava swallowed the meteorite whole. Down in the valley, scorching heat and freezing cold violently clashed and twisted together. Minutes later, the glowing meteorite suddenly blasted out of the molten rock, floating in midair, trying to break free, but the heavy lava dragged it right back down. Refusing to quit, the meteorite bounced back up, tumbling fiercely in the lava, jumping up and down about 3 or 4 times before completely vanishing. Meanwhile, the bubbling lava slowly calmed down like it was full. Are you kidding me? It disappeared. A crazy idea hit me. I grabbed all my leftover spirit stones and chucked them into the pool. The lava instantly boiled like mad. The spirit stones quickly lost their glow. Every drop of spiritual energy was completely drained out. Right then, the buried meteorite sparked back to life, rapidly shifting its shape. Watch closely now. The lava shaped itself into a massive blade, literally carving the meteorite. I was speechless. The lava moved like a master blacksmith hammering the rock with brutal, heavy strikes, totally consuming it. 30 minutes later, the lava forged a brand new 3-foot-long weapon. An incredibly oppressive, totally snow-white longsword emerged. Crystal clear and sparkling like solid ice, it was mesmerizing. I grabbed the hilt. Freezing energy instantly exploded. I immediately pushed my spiritual energy to fight off the freezing chill. The Bodhi tree inside my mind flared green. It took over 10 intense seconds to finally clear the frostbite. Gripping the blade, the pain vanished completely. I had temporarily tamed it. Divine tier weapon successfully forged and bound. Please name your weapon. That voice echoed, making me ridiculously hyped. After thinking for a second, I said, let's call it Frostpierce. The sword felt alive. Hearing its new name, the blade vibrated with a pleasant hum. I channeled my spiritual energy and swung the sword. Pure white frost instantly covered the valley, causing me zero discomfort whatsoever. Definitely a divine weapon. I just needed a place to test this unbelievable power. That same day, ferocious beasts spawned in 7 locations across the entire country. Unlike regular mutated monsters, these things had armor deflecting every attack power, crushing the body, tempering realm, and speed matching a literal airplane. They aggressively hunted down cultivators, draining their spiritual energy to evolve even stronger. For a little while, even the top official authorities were completely clueless. Now you and I need to see what the villains are up to. Hi in the Morgan building. Morgan smirked at a paper. The Capitol just emailed my secretary. It is an emergency. Basically, wild beasts are wrecking Riverdale, and they want our Morgan family to eliminate them. Tell me, what is our next move? The assistant handed out copies to everyone. Everyone grabbed a page. The message ordered the Morgan family to step up, but the commanding tone left absolutely zero room to decline. Patriarch times have changed. An aggressive young guy snapped with a totally arrogant attitude. We are as strong as Dragon Ascent. We really don't have to listen to them. Just ignore them. Morgan glared at him like an absolute idiot. The guy paled and froze. Morgan turned to a chill young guy on his left. Matthew thoughts. Matthew was Morgan's grandson, the absolute golden child of their generation. He was a straight-up genius with insane cultivation talent, already hitting the 8th stage of the body tempering tier. Matthew pushed up his glasses, flashing a totally harmless smile. Patriarch, looking at the public angle, our family runs the Riverdale branch of Dragon Ascent. Privately, Harrison is an old friend of yours. Honestly, the Morgan family has ruled over Riverdale for many years now. With danger here, we cannot just sit back. Matthew, are you totally insane? The arrogant guy from earlier glared at Matthew, looking completely outraged. Shut your mouth. Morgan shot him a lethal glare and whispered, You are banned from all future family meetings. Pack up and get out. The young guy panicked, too terrified to argue. He scrambled up, ran out of the giant hall, and carefully shut the door. Matthew nodded and smoothly continued, We have to fight, but we don't need to try hard. Just formalities. We show Riverdale our strength against the beasts. Makes you think, right? You and I know this is just beginning. Let's dive in. This beast is unexpectedly strong. We shouldn't commit too much manpower. After engaging, we'll find a way to drive it next door because this monster simply cannot be destroyed. If this ferocious beast actually vanishes entirely, our Morgan family will end up hiding behind the scenes again, and that is simply not our goal. Hearing this, Morgan laughed out loud, his eyes glowing with approval. Excellent! Everyone listen up and follow Matthew's lead. Whenever I am not around, everyone must absolutely obey Matthew's direct orders. Right then at Riverport in Riverdale, a massive octopus beast was attacking and completely destroying the area. After its rampage, it quietly slipped away, leaving the ocean dyed a deep red with countless fallen victims everywhere. Up in a helicopter, Matthew Morgan, the bold leader of the family's 3rd generation, looked down at the tragic scene and immediately frowned. This beast was way too ruthless. The helicopter circled the port searching. Finally, they spotted traces of that giant, ferocious octopus floating on the ocean's surface. Using its dozens of huge tentacles, the beast was busy devouring the unfortunate victims it had defeated earlier. Watching this sight gave Matthew chills. He took a deep breath and spoke slowly. Notify Squad 3, Squad 7, Squad 9, and the Special Task Force. Grab your firearms and prepare for battle. 10 minutes later, 6 advanced fighter jets soared right across the sky. This was just part of the hidden power the Morgan family had accumulated. 1 month before the spiritual energy revival, following the Oracle's advice, Morgan not only acquired tons of rare antiquities, but also bought heavy combat gear, including these exact 6 fighter jets. Now watch closely. Over the sea, those fighter jets unleashed a fierce rain of bullets straight at its head, sparking wildly. The angry octopus lashed out in pain. 2 massive tentacles over 20 meters long whipped upward like lightning, aiming right at the jets. The skilled pilots quickly dodged away. For a moment, neither side could land a hit. Watching from far away, Matthew frowned. The defense and raw combat power of this crazy octopus easily exceeded their predictions. Tell them to stop direct attacks immediately. Switch to just harassing and driving it. As long as we chase it right out of Riverdale, whatever happens next really has nothing to do with us. After those fighter jets switched tactics, regrouping to constantly harass and push it, the frustrated octopus started running much further. Whenever it tried fighting back, they quickly retreated, giving the monster absolutely zero chance to strike. Following dozens of bombing waves, the octopus seemed to get much smarter, diving deep into the ocean and swimming away fast, finally vanishing completely from the Riverport area. Matthew officially gave the command, finally notify all squads to pull back. Email the Capitol immediately. Giant beast engagement mission totally accomplished. We can confirm it is no longer in Riverdale. Meanwhile, in the Grand Valley, after 10 days of secluded training, I finally emerged. Simon rushed forward nervously, saying, "Sir, our nation is in total chaos." "You saw that too, right?" Sensing my new aura and looking at that snow-white longsword, Simon's heart filled with absolute shock. Just a few short days of secluded training and he became this terribly powerful— "Speak slowly. There is no rush," I replied. Simon took a breath, holding back his shock, speaking slowly. "Over these past few days, huge numbers of wild beasts have appeared everywhere. Their raw combat power is absolutely terrifying. Several of our Spirit-to-Stone transport trucks were suddenly attacked, and everyone was completely defeated." Hearing this news, a cold light flashed in my eyes. I asked very coldly, "Where is the closest beast to us?" "It is a giant creature resembling both a wolf and tiger with snow-white fur." The Dragon Ascendant team already had 30 soldiers taken down. I heard even the legendary Deputy Director of Dragon Ascendant Carter has personally stepped in. Carter. I felt slightly confused. In my past life, the Deputy Director of Dragon Ascendant was never this person. "That is absolutely correct," Simon quickly continued. "Carter is currently a top expert at the 9th stage of the body-tempering realm, basically a true leading figure." I nodded. "Tell Hugh to prepare the helicopter. Tomorrow morning we will go track down that beast." Right at the foot of Mount Tianshan, on a huge snowy field, a dozen soldiers in white camouflage gear were crawling. Wearing white hats, they seamlessly blended into snow. Without looking really closely, you could barely spot them. The leader crouched down very low, looking completely serious, carrying a massive quiver. This was Dragon Ascendant's Deputy Director, Carter. Moving through the snowy forest, Carter advanced extremely carefully. Peeking halfway out, he spotted the ferocious beast devouring a fallen victim right nearby. His racing heart pounded fast. He raised his right hand firmly, signaling to stop. And that's where we leave it. Those dozen elite soldiers, all at least at the 6th stage, crouched down in perfect unison, drawing weapons, totally ready for an epic battle. "Let's dive into this wild mission." Carter gestures, everyone hides. He whispers, "It is eating now. Its guard is completely down. This is the perfect moment for us to strike. The giant beast is about 80 meters away from them. The intel says its speed is absolutely terrifying. We only have 4 seconds." Carter quickly assigns roles based on their unique skills. Everyone grips their weapons tightly, getting into position just like they planned. "Now listen to my command. 3, 2, 1. As the countdown ends, Carter shoots forward like a rocket, sprinting wildly across the frozen snow with incredible speed. At that exact moment, the case on his back pops open, revealing a massive sword glowing with pure energy. He grips the blade tight, radiating intense fighting spirit as he charges straight at the giant beast. A cheerful teen sniper raises his rifle, blasting away at the monster's back. The rest of the squad quickly springs into action just as planned. Shots ring out loud. The blasts hit perfectly, but they just bounce off with a loud clang like hitting solid steel. That fur is invincible. Every single shot bounces off. Carter panics, instantly realizing the terrifying truth. The intel was wrong. Fall back. Watch closely. He and a buddy, using the iron shirt technique, stand shoulder to shoulder, bravely blocking the beast. Without hesitating, Carter swings his massive blade in a flashy spin, slashing right at the monster. His squad reacts fast, but nobody runs away. Their brave leader is already 80 meters ahead, crossing that gap in just 8 seconds flat. Annoyed by the blasts, the beast turns, opens its giant mouth, and unleashes an epic roar that completely scrambles their brains. Using pure momentum, Carter's huge sword erupts with awesome energy, blasting snow everywhere. He swings hard, landing a perfect strike right on the monster's front leg. A deafening crash echoes out loud. Even with his insane 9th body-tempering tier power behind the strike, that epic surprise attack somehow does exactly 0 damage to the beast. Carter yells out to defend. His loyal teammate instantly raises his hand to block. A shiny golden shield pops up, covering them both like a giant glowing bell. But a split second later, the monster strikes. Its massive body leaps into the air, covering huge distance. Those giant paws, as thick as barrels, slam down hard right onto the shield. The super tough shield shatters instantly. The brave teen gets sent flying backward, coughing from impact, crashing down and getting knocked out cold. Carter quickly raises his sword to block, taking the massive hit head-on. The insane force sends him soaring away, coughing heavily as his face turns completely pale. The rest of the squad draws their rifles and fires together, but the beast just stands there, totally ignoring the crazy storm of blasts. Carter yells out, grabbing a folding fan from his belt. Popping it open, dark magical energy flows into him. Instantly, all his heavy injuries start healing up. I know what you are thinking. A fan, yep. He stands up, glaring. This is his family heirloom, holding a seriously legendary and mysterious backstory. When the world's spiritual energy woke up, it became a super magical item, boosting him fast to the 9th body tempering tier. Across the entire country, he is a total prodigy. So with this monster causing pure chaos in Tianshan, Carter brought his elite squad here, originally planning to defeat it and build his fame. He definitely did not expect this beast to be so ridiculously overpowered, smashing him with one single hit. Right now, the arrogant beast completely ignores Carter, charging straight toward the bravely firing squad. In a flash, 2 teens get sent flying away, you monster. Carter's eyes burn fiercely. He swings the fan wide open. From its dark ribs, an overwhelming blast of pure fighting energy pours out, rushing straight toward the giant beast. At that exact dramatic second, he levels up, reaching the vein-forming tier. The giant beast slowly turns around, glaring at Carter like he is just annoying. It roars and charges while Carter's fan spins incredibly fast. The fan erupts into a massive, unstoppable dark tornado, but insanely, the beast looks totally unfazed. Its huge head crashes right through the storm, launching Carter backward. With a massive thud, he slams hard into the rocky cliff, his energy totally fading out. The magic fan slips away, leaving him completely out of the fight. The monster keeps wiping out the squad, yet even knowing they are overpowered, nobody runs away. A brave teen grabs a huge bundle of explosives, charging straight at the monster. He pulls every single pin, determined to take this boss down with him. An epic explosion booms, loud fiery flames erupting everywhere. Thick dust completely blinds their vision. We are all holding our breath now. The remaining heroes stare right into that dust. Carter watches helplessly in pure shock, his eyes watering with super heavy emotional tears. Let's dive into this epic showdown. When the dust cleared, that massive beast shook off the snow, stepping out completely untouched and unharmed. Carter and the remaining elite Dragon Ascendant soldiers fell into total despair. This beast's terrifying power felt like an absolutely impossible mountain. How could anyone stop this? Carter watched the huge monster inch closer, squeezing his eyes shut in total despair. His hope froze. He only prayed the capital would get the memo and launch heavy military weapons fast. Right when all hope seemed lost, the loud chopping of helicopter rotors echoed above them. Using his last bit of strength, Carter glanced up to see the chopper dropping lower. Suddenly, a mysterious figure kicked open the door and jumped. Yep, it was me, fresh out of intense secluded cultivation and super eager for a fight. Boom! I crashed into the snow, smashing out a massive crater right in front of the monster. Carter was absolutely terrified, but my face showed zero fear. Totally calm. My energy felt totally hidden, yet I radiated an absolutely invincible vibe. Carter instantly knew this mysterious teenager was definitely matching the beast's power level. I just silently glared right back at the monster. Watch closely now. Narrowing my eyes, I launched upward, swinging my right fist and smashing it directly into its massive head. Bam! This dozen-ton monster was sent completely flying backward by my single punch. Energy burst out from its mouth and a huge, sharp tooth snapped right off. Carter was completely speechless. The elite Dragon Ascendant squad was totally wrecked. Rifles and heavy grenades did nothing, but my single punch broke its defense. Looking back at my fist, despite landing the strike, I still felt annoyed, shaking my head with total disappointment. Too weak. The soldiers freezing in the snow couldn't believe their ears, staring up at me in absolute shock. You call that strong, buddy? Seeing the huge beast shaking as it tried standing, I immediately dashed forward and leaped high. Getting right up close, I tucked my knees and stomped brutally on its back. Crack. The loud sound of snapping bones echoed around us. The monster was instantly crushed back down, slamming face first into the freezing snow. It lifted its giant head, roaring angrily while whipping its massive iron-like tail right at me. The Ascendant soldiers tried screaming out a warning, but I honestly didn't even bother turning my head around. With one casual fist swing, I completely shattered its incredibly heavy attack. Then I sat onto its back, swinging both fists and rapidly pounding its head. 1 punch, 2 punches, 3 punches. Completely unable to endure, its massive head slumped sideways as it collapsed, fully knocked out cold. Defeated in exactly 3 hits. I frowned, feeling totally unsatisfied. I know what you're thinking. A divine treasury beast has crazy speed and defense right, but it hadn't mastered any techniques and its combat experience was pretty weak. Back in my past life, even after 15 years of intense training, I seriously doubt I could have beaten this monster. Finishing it with just 3 casual punches this time around, yeah, that made me incredibly happy. After finishing the battle, I pulled out my frost piercer, sliced its armor, and grabbed a glowing fist-sized red inner core, casually tossing it into my backpack. I nodded with a huge smile. Not bad at all. This monster had already formed a core. These things are super rare and crucial. They completely unlock your physical potential and instantly boost power. I told Hugh to call Simon and get a huge truck for transporting the massive creature. Then I turned around, getting ready to head out. "Hey, wait!" A soldier gathered all his shaky courage and rushed over. I turned around, confused. "What's up? Thank you for rescuing us." The older soldier tried showing genuine gratitude, but I quickly interrupted. "I honestly just came here to fight that monster. Your safety has nothing to do with me. No thanks needed. I really don't care what organization you guys belong to, and I don't want to know." I waved him off, hopped right into Hugh's helicopter cabin, and flew away into the sky. The shocked soldier just stood there looking incredibly awkward. Afterwards, they quickly patched up their hurt teammates and called the medics. Pretty soon, the whole Dragon Ascent squad was rescued by the official team. Simon's giant transport truck finally arrived shortly after that. A huge 100-ton crane lifted the monster onto the truck, hauling it back to Grand Valley. Once everyone completely vanished, a mysterious black-cloaked figure suddenly appeared far away inside the tree branches. The guy was shaking uncontrollably, sweating bullets from panic. "No way! Who knew this country hid such an insanely powerful kid? Even if the young master shows up, it's totally useless. I seriously need to report this to the elder fast." He tried running away, but his legs were completely numb and shaking too much. Just way too terrifying. The cloaked guy took deep breaths, desperately trying to calm his racing heart. Suddenly, a chilling voice echoed, "Having trouble walking?" The spy totally froze, cold sweat dripping down his spine. "We're leaving it right here." He slowly turned and saw our hero chilling on a branch, holding a long sword and smiling right at him. Stick with me here, I had already figured out this shady black-cloaked guy's true identity and background. In my past life up north, past the Great Wall, an enormous group called Autumn Mountain 100 Demon Path existed, packed with half-human, half-demon hybrids. They fiercely craved the legendary 9 provinces. They built massive power striking while our nation was busy battling the primordial tribe and ferocious wild beasts. Ultimately, countless cultivators fought them in epic clashes. The cloaked guy took a huge breath, trying to calm down. Realizing he couldn't just run, he desperately started stalling for time, praying his elder would send some backup soon. His patriarch absolutely had to have noticed that crazy intense battle just now using their special item. Thinking I can escape if I signal, he relaxed, slowly slipping his hand inside his dark robe. But his face instantly dropped. His chest pocket was empty. Looking for this, I pulled a red candle out. The cloaked guy felt like he hit freezing rock bottom, his heart overflowing with pure, absolute despair. "Watch closely." He looked up, voice shaking. "How did you get it?" Then pure terror hit as reality sank in. "How did you know my identity?" Known for insane stealth, this half-demon named Number 8, a top elder confidant and one of the 12 strongest demons, had his signal snatched by me without even realizing it. He felt nothing at all. He was completely stunned. I smiled. "Want to know? Let me tell you." Under his expectant gaze, I suddenly drew my sword. A freezing aura flashed with endless, chilling intent, striking his neck. Before any life could fade, the wound instantly froze solid, covered in thick white ice. The guy's eyes went incredibly wide, grabbing his frozen neck as he tumbled from the tree. Hopping into the helicopter, I headed back to Grand Valley. Everyone there stared at me with pure, absolute worship. Unlike paying for fake loyalty before, this time, it was totally real, hard-earned respect. Down at the mountain's base, the 10-meter-tall beast carcass was proudly hung up by the excited valley residents. Their eyes shined with eager greed, yet nobody dared touch it. After all, this massive monster was strictly my prize. A divine treasury realm beast's meat holds intense spiritual energy, making it ridiculously useful for body-tempering cultivation. But honestly, it was useless to me. Its fur, tossed into the earth core crimson flame sea, could forge some seriously epic equipment. Divide the meat among yourselves. Make sure absolutely everyone gets a fair portion. Wash and dry the skin, then place it uphill. Giving simple orders, I prepared to resume secluded cultivation. My body was completely overflowing with intense spiritual energy, feeling like it could honestly burst. "Sir, we really get to eat this beast to boost our strength." Simon went wild, buying 3 whole truckloads of beer and 100 grills for an epic outdoor barbecue. Everyone cheered loudly. We both know loyalty is key here. Upgrading my realm also made my appetite totally surge. Back at Grand Valley, I literally devoured 3 whole roasted pigs and chugged 10 massive glasses of orange juice just to finally feel full. All prepped, I sat peacefully in the valley, closed my eyes, and started cultivating. Hitting the divine treasury realm needs serious organ tempering, plus a real spark of mental comprehension. Training in this divine treasury realm means absolutely maximizing your organs' true potential without actually damaging them. Taking a deep breath, I sat down, pulled that inner core retrieved from the giant beast straight out of my pocket, and swallowed it without hesitation. Inside me, the core slowly dissolved, transforming into intense streams of vital energy and spirit that circulated everywhere, packed with insanely abundant spiritual power. Inside my mind, the glowing Bodhi tree appeared again, completely absorbing all that raw, spiritual, and vital energy. After absorbing everything, a cool sensation hit my eyes. Countless streams of pure spiritual energy started impacting and completely reforming my vision. Unlike the agonizing heart upgrade before, this time brought zero pain, just an incredibly comfortable, soothing feeling. As the energy faded, I opened my eyes and realized I could spot a tiny ant crawling on a valley cliff 200 meters away. I was totally ecstatic. This massive vision upgrade was a huge sign of seriously elevated combat power. Breakthrough to the Divine Treasury Realm's 2nd stage. Eyes fully enhanced, new skill acquired, Eagle Eye. That echoing voice inside my head felt amazing. In my past life, I heard reaching the Divine Treasury Realm could actually unlock incredible special skills. But get this, out of 1.4 billion people, fewer than 10 who reached the 9th stage ever gained one, and absolutely nobody ever unlocked 2 or more skills. Yet here I am grabbing a sweet skill at stage 2. So what do you and I make of this? My luck is unmatched, and I am just getting started. Stick with me here. You're about to watch him swallow this core and get an insanely massive power spike. Boom, Divine Treasury Realm, Stage 3 unlocked. Kidneys get enhanced, and he scores the Unyielding skill. Taking a hit from a higher level now gives a 15% damage immunity chance. Hearing this system prompt, oh, he was totally thrilled. Damage immunity is absolutely broken. That 15% chance is completely enough to let him confidently battle cultivators or ferocious beasts way above his level. His eyes sparked with a bright golden energy. His current level already smashed his 15-year goal from his past life. As for all those old enemies, he is definitely bringing them down step by step. Just a few days later, fully adjusting to these crazy new upgrades, he completely mastered the insane Eagle Eye skill. It is literally like having super-powered binoculars with a crazy 100-fold zoom and perfect microscopic vision. As for the new Unyielding ability, honestly, he hasn't found a bad guy strong enough to even test it yet. In his past timeline, right after the fierce beasts arrived, those shady hidden factions slowly started stepping into the light. Those elite families started betraying and fighting the actual national government. Checking the timeline, there are under 2 months left. When that moment drops, he's going to totally eliminate them all. Thinking about this, his eyes flashed with ice-cold fury. Meanwhile, his 5 minds kept constantly transporting all those spirit stones. After totally crushing the Morgan family, the other elites temporarily backed off from launching new attacks. Now watch closely, because we both know these villains are just waiting for the perfect moment to strike back. Just a few days prior, he got word that one elite family loudly bragged about hitting the vein-forming tier straight up, claiming to be the absolute first person in the whole nation to reach this specific realm. Nobody challenged this claim, so he figured the strongest fighter in the country is literally just at the vein-forming tier. While he was totally lost in thought, the underground magma suddenly started boiling up again. That intense, blistering heat completely washed over him. Staring at the bubbling lava, it clicked. Every time this magma erupted, it was the absolute best time for crafting epic weapons. He quickly checked the surroundings, grabbed that 1,000-year lightning wood he worked so hard to find, plus the ancestral dragon vein rope from Dragon Cliff Temple, and tossed them straight into the fire. The lightning wood melted right in. Blue electricity sparked wildly, turning into intense electric arcs that fought back against the raging magma. Dropping that ancestral dragon vein in triggered an absolutely massive magical transformation. You're going to want to see this. The lava shoots 20 feet high, and an epic 5-clawed shadow dragon actually raises its head. The roar echoed straight through the valley, giving him absolute chills. This ancient dragon vein clearly had some crazy backstory. Even after centuries, this simple-looking rope still held on to such ridiculously overpowered magical energy. The boiling magma dragged both the dragon vein and the lightning wood deep underground. About 12 minutes later, the fiery pit finally calmed down. He felt a rush. Suddenly, a magical sound echoed out. A glowing blue bow slowly floated right up. This bow was over 6 feet long. Carved with mysterious glowing runes, it had literal electricity crawling over it like tiny snakes. Floating right there, shining with crazy energy, it was definitely legendary. He was totally hyped. Another god-tier weapon just dropped, divine weapon crafted successfully, the Heaven's Punishment, Lightning God Bow. He reached out and grabbed it. This epic ancient energy instantly rushed through him, and the instructions for using it burned right into his brain. This ridiculous bow didn't need skills, just massive spiritual energy. Knowing how much energy he actually had, he just smirked. Meanwhile, over in Riverdale, 12 guys in black cloaks gathered around a dark underground table. "All right, guys, the time is finally here. We must act," the leader in the middle said, cracking his knuckles with a super raspy voice. But someone instantly interrupted him. "Hold up, I got some terrible news. If we don't fix this, it'll ruin everything when the boss finally arrives 3 months from now. Up in the north, some guy just hit the Divine Treasury tier, crafted a legendary weapon wrecked. Monsters controls 5 mines, and he is the exact same dude who stole the 6 bronze swords from King Arthur's tomb. His name is Arthur." The boss actually shivered, took a deep breath, and coldly commanded, "Alert all 10 elite families." "Take him down." Back in Grand Valley, after stepping out of his training cave, Simon explained the whole month's events. Fierce beasts were swarming the entire country, and the brave Dragon Ascendant troops were constantly fighting some brutal battles. "Trust me on this, the whole situation is an absolute nightmare." He listened without a word. Compared to his past timeline, these monsters showed up way faster and in crazy numbers. "Stick with me." The situation was totally grim. Thousands fell to these beasts every single day. Unless legendary Divine Treasury realm powerhouses stepped up to lead squads and defeat them one by one, solving this massive crisis felt completely impossible. In reality, the national government faced absolutely unprecedented pressure. 8 military corps were basically fully deployed, yet they still could not clear out every beast. Some top leaders wanted to drop heavy artillery, even nukes, but got immediately shut down. After all, this was their home turf, and hope was not totally lost just yet. The Dragon Ascendant group still had thousands of cultivators. Once they leveled up, these beasts would not be a threat. "Call Hugh over. I have instructions for him." Just moments later, Hugh and Simon entered the office. "Where are the fiercest beasts?" he asked. "Defeating them drops inner cores, which are absolutely crucial for unlocking physical potential and rapidly raising your cultivation realm." Those two were completely stunned. Pure shock hit them. Right now, everyone else was running far away. Even the powerful Morgan family did not dare to face these monsters directly. Yet their boss wanted to hunt them down. Hugh thought for a second, then pointed straight north. Here is where it gets interesting. Hearing about a dozen fierce beasts, he instantly ordered a helicopter prepared. "We are heading to the Northern Defense Corps." Once they left, our guy geared up. He strapped the frost-pierced sword to his back and equipped the Heaven's Punishment Lightning God Bow, looking like an absolute elite hunter. He packed 10 incredibly dense premium-quality spirit stones, which was plenty of energy to absorb for now. Just half an hour later, Hugh was flying the helicopter, taking our hero straight toward the Northern Corps. Meanwhile, over at a Northern Defense camp, the regiment commander stood on a watchtower, absolutely terrified to see over a dozen giant beasts charging their base just 1 kilometer away. The commander was shaking with fear. Morning recon flights reported 0 beasts within a 20-mile radius. Based on the commissar's earlier analysis, this specific zone was definitely not a primary target for monster attacks. Unexpectedly, these things grouped up for a massive frontal assault, almost like some hidden mastermind was directing them. He frantically radioed main headquarters, but the heavy backup forces were 10 minutes away. He screamed the order. Once the beasts hit artillery range, an absolute storm of fierce heavy firepower erupted outward. Hundreds of rapid machine guns instantly unleashed countless flying bullets. But 10 seconds later, a massive beast with 10-meter-long antlers leaped like a literal lightning bolt, completely breaching their front lines. With a single brutal swipe, 4 or 5 soldiers were sent flying, completely overpowered immediately. The brave commanding officer roared, drawing his massive blade. His vital energy exploded, charging forward with a dozen elite soldiers at the 7th stage of body tempering. They all drew their long blades, their pure battle spirit soaring high into the clouds. But despite those numbers, they could not stop a single beast, much less the others climbing into the base. The situation was completely falling apart. Soldiers were dropping fast. The commander's eyes were wide with panic. Only 2 minutes down, 8 agonizing minutes left. How could they possibly survive? "You know who's coming." Helicopter rotors suddenly echoed right overhead. The shocked commander looked up, watching a young guy with a giant bow and long sword kick the door open and leap down from 100 meters up. Rocking a sleek black outfit, he crashed into their position like a heavy artillery shell, smashing a massive deep crater right into the dirt. The regiment commander thought to himself, this absolutely has to be the military's elite backup. That massive epic landing made both the terrified soldiers and monsters freeze, staring right at him. Facing a dozen giant beasts, he decided to end this fight really quickly. He slowly drew the Heaven's Punishment Lightning God bow from his back. Instantly, the area flooded with a wild, terrifying lightning aura. Activating his eagle eye skill, he locked onto his first target. A massive 40-meter python glared back. Noticing his intense gaze, the giant snake flicked its tongue and charged forward. He just calmly channeled his raw spiritual energy, pulling back the heavy bowstring. In an instant, the whole world changed color. Dark clouds billowed and a massive lightning bolt tore the sky, crashing down. The surrounding soldiers were totally stunned, terrified by this crazy celestial magic. Even the experienced commander stared blankly upward, completely unable to process it. What kind of insane powerhouse is this? Summoning literal storms just by drawing a bow? He pulled that glowing string into a full moon shape, then released. A 4-meter blue arrow, thick as a human arm, blasted outward. Almost instantly, a massively earth-shattering explosion shook the entire ground. The arrow struck perfectly, piercing right through the python, blowing its massive form into tiny fragments that rained from above. A black inner core flew out. He grabbed it, bagged it, and looked for his next target. You and I just witnessed absolute peak greatness. Watching that giant python get blasted apart, the remaining dozen creatures just looked at each other, instantly turned around, and completely bolted. This young guy released an absolutely overwhelming, terrifying aura. "Stick with me. You're about to see pure, absolute power." The soldiers stood entirely stunned, watching the beast pack that just overwhelmed 50,000 men and hundreds of defense jets, now running away from one young cultivator. I frowned. "I am already here. Think you can escape?" Jumping onto the defensive wall, I locked onto a retreating monster, drew my bow, and fired. The arrow shot like a meteor, hitting its target with a deafening boom. Another creature shattered into dust, scattering in every single direction. The surviving monsters started running even faster. Feeling stuck since I had not upgraded my speed or learned any movement skills, catching up on foot proved difficult. Without missing a beat, I waved to Hugh, turned right around, and jumped into the helicopter. The regiment commander finally snapped out of his daze, rushing over to ask my name, but I totally ignored him, taking off to chase the running monsters. Over 1,000 people stood there completely shocked. He was actually hunting the fierce monsters. 5 minutes later, backup finally arrived. An Air Force major led 50 fighter jets but saw absolutely zero monsters, prompting him to fiercely question the confused regiment commander. The commander and his soldiers frantically explained everything they just witnessed. The major just stood there, mind completely blown. This wild information went beyond his understanding. "Now watch this. You mean one young cultivator drove off 12 fierce monsters and is currently hunting them from a helicopter?" The major threw his hands up, looking visibly annoyed, totally convinced the regiment commander was playing him for an absolute fool. The commander looked stunned, then got seriously mad. "Major, you can easily doubt me, but do not disrespect that young hero. Over 1,000 guys here saw it happen. Just look at your feet." The major glanced down his entire scalp, going completely numb. He slowly picked up a massive piece of snakeskin, the insane truth finally hitting him. He suddenly remembered the general's exact orders telling him to find the hero who destroyed the Tianshan monster with just 3 punches. Turns out, along with insane fists, that guy also wields a divine bow. The major realized everything, his heart racing with pure urgency. Which direction did he go? North. The major quickly grabbed his helmet, jumped back into his jet, and fired up the comms. Boys, fly straight north. Find our hero ahead. I was tailing those targets northward. Following my orders, the helicopter flew at maximum speed. We quickly caught up, but a new issue popped up. You and I both know this sounds completely exhausting, right? Every single time I found a target, I had to jump down, finish it, and climb back up. Such a hassle just to grab that inner core. If only I could hit the heavenly origin realm and fly, that would be amazing, I quietly thought to myself. After taking down a horned monster and securing its core, Hugh kept flying the chopper, continuing our intense chase toward the north. I already had 4 glowing inner cores packed away, all from Divine Treasury Realm creatures, giving me total confidence to hit the peak of the Divine Treasury Realm. Right then, Hugh's radar picked up 50 objects flying in marked as military jets. I just told Hugh to keep chasing and ignore them completely. But soon the jets closed in and sent a radio request. "Sir, they are asking to connect. Should I accept?" Hugh asked. I thought for a second and nodded. Hugh opened the radio and an excited voice suddenly rang out. "Hero, hello! I am Major Aaron of the Northern Defense Air Force. We truly appreciate your amazing assistance. Please let me, on behalf of the entire Northern Defense Corps, offer our absolute highest respect." I frowned, feeling like this small talk was wasting precious time. "Hang it up!" Hugh cut the radio and kept flying to chase the targets. The radio rang again. Hugh glanced back. I narrowed my eyes and gave a tiny nod. This time, Hugh interrupted Aaron's fancy intro, getting right to the point. Aaron sincerely offered a huge invitation. "You can join Northern Defense. Pick whatever rank you want," but I firmly refused. After an awkward pause, Aaron spoke up. "Hero, it seems you are hunting those beasts. Honestly, that chopper speed cannot match our fighter jets. We were wondering how we can assist you. Getting to support you is a massive honor for Northern Defense." Hugh turned around his face, looking completely, utterly baffled. I was actually surprised. Northern Defense is literally one of the absolute best military groups worldwide. Their general is famously super arrogant, so why did this major sound so desperate to please? After thinking it over, I watched those monsters running wild below and also felt a major headache forming. I asked, "Could you herd the targets together basically like sheepdogs with a flock?" Trust me, we all feel Hugh's reaction here. "Sir, that exact comparison is absolutely hilarious. You just called a literal Air Force major a sheepdog." But unexpectedly, a cheerful, super confident voice replied back, "Absolutely no problem. Let us jump into this epic showdown." Aaron promised total victory, honestly not caring if he acted like a complete fanboy just as long as he got to serve our awesome hero. The Northern Defense fighter jets split into 3 squads, blasting from the east, west, and south, firing wildly to push the monsters back. Seeing the perfect opening appear, I threw the cabin door wide open, drawing my bow to strike. Weirdly enough, standard jet attacks rarely fazed these monsters. But now, the simple sound of my bowstring had them panicking like startled birds, scrambling desperately to dodge the crossfire and funneling their escape route into one single direction. Hero, the east, west, and south are totally locked down. The Northern Defense Air Force completely boxed them in with firepower. Watching the monsters run, Aaron smirked and explained 3 kilometers north is a 1,000-meter-high cliff. There is absolutely no way across. Barely 3 minutes later, the trapped monsters hit the cliff base. They growled, slammed on the brakes, turned around, and glared up at the lone figure floating above them. I stared down at the roaring pack, stepped out the door, and casually dropped from 100 meters. Now watch this epic moment. I drew Frost Pierce, stepping forward like an absolute boss. At 200 meters out, I gripped my sword and surged forward. My battle aura exploded as I crashed into the Divine Treasury Realm beasts, kicking off an absolutely one-sided dominating sweep. A massive alpha beast with a horse face and deer antlers dropped its head in pure, absolute panic. Its massive antlers flared with blinding white light, charging straight toward me. I swung my blade down, shattering its steel antlers and taking it out in a flash. Without missing a beat, I kept my rapid attacks flowing. A crescent-shaped wave of energy swept out horizontally. The monsters that failed to defend in time were instantly swept away by the strike. Instantly, my intense, chilling energy froze everything solid, releasing thick white smoke as an entire row of massive beasts completely collapsed. I charged into the chaos, leaped high, flipped my sword into a reverse grip, and fiercely struck a giant boar monster. Its massive body was slammed right into the ground. The fight looked intense, but only lasted several seconds. The dozen monsters were completely wiped out before even reacting. Crimson marks stained my clothes. The setting sun glowed intensely red. Covered in battle marks, Arthur stood proud like an unstoppable legendary war god. The Northern Defense Air Force hovering high above was completely speechless, forgetting to even pilot their jets, just silently staring at me in absolute awe. Meanwhile, I was casually farming inner cores. Once my bag was totally stuffed to the brim, I waved to summon Hugh. Hugh lowered the chopper, tossing down a few extra bags. I happily scooped up the loot, stuffing everything full. I know what you are thinking. I played it totally cool, but inside absolutely thrilled with this epic loot. At that exact moment, all 50 fighter jets touched down. Seeing me stepping into the chopper, Major Aaron sprinted over from his own aircraft. "Hero, please wait a second." I turned around and casually asked, "What?" Aaron stopped, took a deep breath to hide his shock, and smiled politely. "Hero, may I ask your honorable name, Arthur?" I replied. Aaron was visibly startled. After the spiritual energy revival, he recognized that name. The absolute top business genius nationwide sold his shares, turning into a wild prodigal son who spent money like crazy. He never expected this Arthur to be an absolute fighting god. The Major looked at me, his eyes shining with pure admiration, and suddenly bowed down deeply. "Mr. Arthur, no matter what you think, to the Northern Defense Corps, you are our ultimate savior, a true national hero. I express my sincere gratitude on behalf of the entire squad." I just waved my hand, keeping my expression totally calm. "I did not eliminate those beasts to save you. Honestly, I do not care about Northern Defense, but anyone daring to invade this nation will definitely pay a very heavy price." Hearing those words, Aaron and the brave soldiers behind him stood tall and saluted respectfully. I ignored them, turning right around, hopped into the helicopter, and vanished from sight. Aaron was absolutely ecstatic, rushing back to report to the general. "Northern Defense found a savior. The nation is safe." His voice shook with excitement, the massive weight leaving his chest. With this guardian deity, why should our nation ever fear monsters or invaders? Back at the Grand Valley, I jumped right into secluded cultivation. The current situation totally outpaced my past life. In barely a month, Divine Treasury Realm monsters had already shown up, whereas in my previous life, that took 3 entire months. So what do we take from this? The danger is way higher now, and getting insanely strong is my only option. Locking myself in the secret cultivation chamber, I started quickly consuming the beast cores. Thanks to my experience from the last 2 times, I absorbed the energy faster and faster. In just 5 minutes, intense spiritual energy explosively surged through my lungs. Come along with me here. That glowing green Bodhi tree just repaired his energy and healed the pain. He hit stage 4 of the Divine Treasury Realm. That system notification totally hyped him up. Lungs fully upgraded, his spiritual energy recovery was suddenly 100 times faster than normal people. Honestly, this insane breakthrough speed was completely mind-blowing to witness. In his past life, top family prodigies needed a whole month just to advance one single stage. Now, 5 minutes flat. Too bad he did not unlock a new skill this time. He kept downing inner cores and absorbing spirit stones, but after 12 deep breaths, there was still 0 sign of hitting the 5th stage. Realizing a single inner core was not going to cut it, he popped another. Intense spiritual power erupted inside him, hitting the absolute peak of the 4th stage, yet he still fell just a tiny bit short. Feeling frustrated, he simply gritted his teeth and swallowed a 3rd core. Massive spiritual energy instantly flooded his body, unleashing incredible power. Fueled by 3 inner cores, he slammed into the 5th stage barrier. This time around, the massive energy completely remodeled his liver. Now based on the 5 elements, the liver represents wood. This symbol of vitality perfectly matched his wood element Bodhi tree. Because of that, the entire upgrade went super smoothly. 10 minutes later, that barrier shattered into pieces. He officially unlocked the 5th stage of the realm. New skill acquired. Endless Life rapidly heals serious injuries and works once a day. Healing power scales with level currently at level 1. Hearing this made him totally ecstatic. Stacking this with his 15% damage immunity, as long as he avoids reckless danger, he is basically completely invincible. but upgrading skills requires an incredibly rare medicinal herb. Right now, he actually had absolutely no clue where to find one, so skill upgrades were definitely on hold. His only option was pushing his realm higher. Chugging the last inner cores, he upgraded his stomach and ears, hitting the 7th stage of the Divine Treasury realm. He stood up with golden light flashing in his eyes, but then his stomach started rumbling loudly. Patting his belly, he casually walked out. Seeing him, Simon quickly ordered 10 guys to serve over 100 pounds of fresh braised beef. He started scarfing it down like crazy. Then Simon finally spoke up about an urgent problem. Watch closely now, the Morgan family just rallied 9 huge factions to target his mines. Narrowing his eyes, he stayed totally calm, finished his massive meal, and chilled on the sofa while Simon kept talking. At Winston City, the Morgans actually bribed workers to start a massive riot, but Dave managed to shut it down quickly. Checking the Whitestone mine, they caught a bunch of cultivators sneaking around. Definitely sneaky scouts from the major families. Over at South City, Matthew Morgan literally flew a helicopter in circles yelling threats that he would claim the mine next time he returned. Basically, those 10 great families were already making moves to steal his territory. A few spots were even crawling with hidden spies. He was too busy leveling up to notice before, but right now these fools were seriously pushing their luck way too far. He told Simon to warn Morgan that any more attacks would result in the entire Morgan family getting erased from the nation. His tone stayed totally calm, like it was nothing. Then he added a quick update. He told Simon to promise that Arthur himself would visit Riverdale in exactly 3 days. He hoped Morgan was ready to receive a seriously epic incoming gift. Simon froze up, a cold chill hitting his chest. He suddenly remembered Arthur's absolutely ruthless business tactics from the old days. He nodded quickly. Meanwhile, in Riverdale, Morgan immediately gathered his core family members. Can you believe this? That anxious meeting happened because the Oracle ordered Arthur taken down. The whole room went dead silent. This Oracle guy warned them 3 months ago about the energy revival, telling the Morgans to prep early because of that warning. The Morgans grabbed the advantage. They hoarded rare treasures, boosting their young family prodigies into making massive progress. 4 members already hit forming realm to them. This Oracle was an absolute lifesaver. They followed the Oracle blindly, especially against Arthur, since their rivalry was already extremely bitter. Morgan kept a totally blank face, asking Matthew to speak as the youth leader. So what do we make of this? Despite Morgan's deep worry, Matthew insists this absolute calamity must be stopped. Plus, Matthew explained, Arthur snatched our 6 bronze swords and a few spirit stone mines. Stick with me, this rivalry is wild. Matthew was extremely clever, resourceful, and the Morgan family's absolute strongest expert at the 3rd stage vein-forming realm. Promoted by the Patriarch, his opinions mattered heavily. If I am guessing right, other great families got this too. Matthew continued sharing. Based on our deductions, Arthur is merely at the vein-forming realm. With 10 great families teaming up completely, our winning chances are incredibly high. Morgan nodded with a massive dramatic smile, intertwining all 10 fingers while looking totally contemptuous. Arthur warned that if we keep targeting his mines, he will make our entire family vanish completely. Everyone in the room was stunned into absolute silence. Matthew burst into mocking laughter. We have 1,300 years of foundation. No one ever dared threaten us like this. Morgan's bold words completely ignited everyone's fiery anger. Everyone was boiling mad, seemingly eager to smash Arthur instantly. Morgan felt quite satisfied, knowing unity matters most against foes. Once everyone finally calmed down, he declared, "In 3 days, Arthur comes to Riverdale bringing a grand gift. Everyone must perform perfectly. Dismissed. Matthew, wait." The doubtful crowd left, leaving just Matthew and the Patriarch. Matthew Intelligence says Arthur moved hundreds of spirit stone trucks plus those neat antiques he bought earlier. His power level is likely high. You cannot handle him easily, Morgan warned seriously. Looking respectful and rational, Matthew replied, "Patriarch, my earlier words were simply to boost everyone's morale. We must be extremely cautious." Now watch closely, because 3 days later, I finally hopped onto that helicopter toward Riverdale. The aircraft landed. Carrying Frost Piercer and the Heaven's Punishment Lightning God bow, I strolled casually toward the massive Morgan building. Walking down the empty street, I sighed at the missing crowds. Reaching the building's ground floor, over a dozen dramatic young guys suddenly rushed right out. Rocking trendy clothes, they featured wildly colorful hair and heavily tattooed arms. Blocking my path, an arrogant 17-year-old in a jacket stepped up acting tough, tilted his head and demanded, "What do you want?" I burst out laughing. Did that old ghost Morgan seriously send this utter trash to annoy me? "I will count to 3. Scram." Hearing this, the youth laughed mockingly. Averaging the 7th stage body tempering realm, they foolishly fancied themselves strong and stood perfectly still. I totally ignored them and started my countdown. Once finished, I cheerfully lunged forward, throwing a massive punch. The teen before me instantly turned into energy mist and shattered. The rest stood there completely horrified. One strike effortlessly obliterated an 8th stage cultivator, leaving them 0 reaction time. One punch each, finishing this wild battle in 10 seconds flat. Just then, another group rushed right out of that building. Wielding various weapons, they looked super fierce, like facing a massive boss. Their muscular 2-meter-tall leader loudly shouted, "Arthur attacking innocent folks in broad daylight. Do you seriously still care about the laws of the land?" I casually wiped the dust off my face and replied playfully, "I will count to 3. Witnessing my strength, the panicked crowd hastily made way. Absolutely no one dared to stop me. I strolled over to the reception desk, giving the professionally dressed girl a cheerful smile. "Please take me to Morgan's office. I have a 9 a.m. coffee appointment with him, 3 minutes left. I sure hope your elevator is fast enough. Please do not waste my time." The pale girl forced a smile. "Yes, follow me." She led me inside the high-speed elevator and gently pressed floor 105. In under 20 seconds, I reached Morgan's office. 4 incredibly luxurious offices covering exactly 1,000 square meters. 50 or 60 tense people stared at me. Dead center, a silver-haired old man rocking slicked-back hair and sharp, eagle-like eyes was quietly assessing me. It was Morgan. "Welcome, Mr. Arthur. You must be tired from the very long journey." Morgan stood up, acting like a gracious host, smiling widely as if happily meeting an old friend. "You and I both know he's totally faking it. Earlier some trash greeted me, but now they are crushed." I sneered casually, sat down by the round table, kicked my feet up, and stared at Morgan with pure arrogance. "Old Ghost Morgan, I heard you've been targeting my mines recently, planting sneaky spies to incite riots. I really did not come here today to chat. Surrender the 5 mines in Riverdale, compensate me 100 billion, and hand Matthew over. Do that, and I will graciously ignore your responsibilities." My attitude wasn't simply arrogant, but purely arrogant to the extreme. Despite his age, Morgan had never suffered such epic humiliation. Boiling with anger, he desperately thought of countermeasures. But that is where we leave it, because suddenly a young Morgan guy boldly stood right up. "Stick with me, you and I are about to watch an epic clash." The Morgan family yells. "Arthur, fight me one-on-one." Arthur glances over. "Second stage vein forming realm." He ignores him, replying coldly, "I never fight trash. Get lost." The room feels deeply insulted. A second stage vein forming expert is basically a top-tier national genius, yet Arthur just called him trash. "Since you act arrogant, I will teach you a harsh lesson today." The Morgan youth steps forward, his vital energy erupting and muscles bulging. Smirking, he cracks his neck as everyone steps back. Glaring at Arthur, he dashes forward incredibly fast, swinging a super fierce, powerful chop. A massive boom echoes. Everyone gasps in pure awe. Instantly, Arthur grabs a cigar, flicks his finger, turning it into a sharp weapon, striking right at his forehead. Freezing instantly, the attacker fully collapses in defeat. All 50 or 60 people stand stunned, feeling extreme horror. Morgan just trembles in total confusion, defeating a second stage, vein-forming cultivator instantly. Is he in the divine treasury realm? Morgan goes pale, heavily regretting opposing Arthur. The other 9 great families also feel completely on edge, suddenly filled with deep regret. "This is your genius," Arthur grabs the defeated youth, tossing him toward Morgan. "I came to test your strength." A 4th stage vein forming youth ignores Matthew's frantic signals, roars, and steps right out. His body radiates vital energy, drawing a great saber with completely furious eyes. Arthur glances over, spotting a jade guanyin around his neck, radiating a divine aura. Now watch closely. That artifact gives him courage while Arthur casually sips coffee. Less reckless than the last guy, he observes, carefully stepping closer. He roars, swinging his saber horizontally, an epic attack that could move mountains. But next second, Arthur waves his hand. Spiritual power spreads like water, instantly shattering the saber. The broken blade keeps momentum, striking right across his neck. His eyes widen, a red mark appearing on his neck as he collapses. Rapid heartbeats fill the room. One move to defeat a fourth-stage cultivator holding a protective artifact. A genius matching Matthew, yet before Arthur, he resembles a toddler. Old Ghost Morgan, you get 3 seconds to think. Arthur stares coldly, gaze oppressive. Arthur begins counting down. Morgan, the patriarch dominating the nation for decades and uncrowned king of Riverdale, completely lacks the courage to speak. Fine. I agree. Morgan uses all his strength to endure the humiliation, then slumps onto the sofa, totally weak and trembling with fear. Arthur finishes the coffee, smiling. Excellent. Was it not easier this way? My assistant will contact you about the remaining details. The coffee was good. Thanks. Arthur grabs his trench coat, casually leaves the office, and exits the entire building. Once sure Arthur left, Morgan just sits on the sofa, blankly staring out the window. Matthew quickly has his people clean up the defeated men inside. You and I both know what this means. After the Morgan family, the other great families are definitely next in line. Matthew fiercely gazes around. If we cannot beat him, let the people behind us handle him. Everyone hide nothing, mobilize all connections. Is the oracle not about to appear? When they arrive, who cares if Arthur reached the divine treasury realm? Morgan and the 9 patriarchs exchange looks, a glimmer of hope flashing in despairing eyes. After everyone leaves, Morgan looks at Matthew, deep exhaustion rising. Matthew, go to the Grand Valley first and await his instructions. He will not dare touch you yet. Everyone leave. I need some peace and quiet. Sir, the Morgan family handover went very smoothly. The 5 mines are completely secured. Our people arrived this afternoon. Matthew reached the Grand Valley wearing spirit-locking shackles per orders. 0 spiritual energy for him. 100 billion cash hit the account. Hearing Simon's report, Arthur stays in Riverdale. He finds a secluded hotel, gazing out at the beautiful, distant ocean horizon. Wild ride, right, standing by the window. Arthur simply gazes at the eastern sea.